Now is the time, a time you'll look back on, a time you adopt as inspiration. You will recollect this time, this moment, right now. Motivate yourself towards success. Overcome, take over. The time is now.
Time is now. It certainly is. Welcome everyone. Loaded Mag, NUFC, back on your screens. Hope everyone's well. Daz, Richie, how are things?
Richie, don't say plodding. Don't say plodding.
Don't do it.
No, all good, Pete. All good. Bit of a storm here in our different parts of Ireland. Not too bad where I am. So my broadband should hopefully hold up. Touch wood.
And the screen.
Yeah. And as the comedy genius who popped onto our just to say hello to us, Marty, just before the show. Joe Biden is in town, so he's out Martin's neck of the woods. So Martin is treating him to a Chinese tonight, I think. So he won't be joining us. But apart from that, all good. You Rich?
Stuff.
I've already said plodding.
Always planning. Well, look, it's great to be back on talking all things Newcastle United, and why not after 3 wins, 5 wins on the bounce, but 3 wins in a week. And what do you think? Do you think there's a little bit to talk about?
Nah, we just shut the show down.
Thanks for joining. There's always things to talk about with all things Newcastle United. And look, let's start with, because there's a few controversial ones at the moment. I want to get your thoughts on this. This one here. So our friend, Jordan Cronin, put a piece out today around Anderson Maximin, understood to be in France, recovering after a minor hamstring injury, being given time off, by the way, with regards to the club. Mm-hmm. But there seems to be some sections of the fan base that are just not happy at the moment. They seem to be pointing fingers at him and the fact that he's not with the rest of the team. What do you make of all that? Should we have an issue with the fact that he's in France recovering, or should we allow him to have this time if that's going to help? I don't know what you boys think.
It doesn't matter where he is. It doesn't matter if he's gone to the moon to recover, as long as he recovers as quickly as possible. There's always this thing with ASM. It's like that. There's a section that just kind of hate him, and they're just kind of, or maybe not hate is a too strong a word, but just have a bit of a dislike towards him and any little thing at all, and they jump on it, and they're looking to make a conspiracy theory out of it. It's always the same case. And you know what? Give it a couple of weeks time, or maybe in the start of next season or something, as assuming he would still be with us, it'll be the same again. He'll be injured, and he'll have to go to France or something like that, and people will be more conspiracy theories. It's always the same. It's never in the story. It becomes too predictable now. It's like a fucking soap opera at this stage with the whole thing with them. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, Richard, what have you made of? And I have to say, is some sections of the fan base that are not happy with the fact that he's in France again.
It's the same as pretty much what Daz just said. As long as he recovers as quick as possible, I couldn't care where it was. I think this happened about 6 months ago as well, didn't it? When the same pictures are, I think was it on an international duty or something last time it happened, and it was And everyone was going, "Oh, he's taking the piss now. What's he actually doing?" Because did he not have his trainers on or something in the last time in the first picture he had or something? And it was just take them seriously. I couldn't care less. If it's going to help him get back on the pitch as quick as possible, help us with this the running that we've got, then I couldn't care less where it is.
All seems weird for me. Not quite sure what the obsession is with ASM having to be back training with the rest of the lads. If he's not fit and he needs to do it, why not do it with the people around him? I don't get it. I just thought it was a really, really weird kind of situation where people are pointing the finger at ASM. But look, it's looking like he's possibly not going to be fit for the weekend because he's not been training with the boys. They did say it'd be around 2 weeks, which would have probably took us to around the Villa game. Do we need to risk him at this point?
No, because there's someone else we might get onto soon as well. Who you know what? I'm just going to click in the picture, Pete. You know how this show goes. We're just going to ramble in from one topic to the other. This man has made an appearance. Our leading goal scorer, our surprise leading goal scorer is that. So he's back in training, and that's great to see as well. And we can. Play Villa. It's not going to be an easy game against Villa away from home. But it was great to see Miggy back as well and fighting for his spot in the team or on the bench, whatever the case may be. Eddie Howe doesn't rush people back either. So I take it slowly with this ASM. If obviously if Miggy's training, he's ahead of him. So in being back on the pitch, let's say. So I wouldn't risk him.
Okay, so you wouldn't risk him, Richie. Would you fling him back in? He's our top scorer. You know what his fitness is like. He run all day for the cause anyway. Would you, from your perspective, start Miggy, or would you agree with Daz? Maybe start him on the bench and build him in.
Well, just to clarify, I mean I wouldn't risk ASM. I wouldn't risk ASM bringing him back too soon. Miggy, if he's fit and raring to go, Eddie Howe will make that call. It doesn't matter what we say. But if he was fair and fit, yeah, I'd throw him in then. Yeah. Sorry, just to clarify.
Okay. Just to clarify, ASM not risked. Miggy, let Eddie Howe decide. What do you think, Richie? What you go with both? Let's go for both ASM and Miggy.
ASM, no, because it's. I think you wouldn't really take the risk because obviously if it's a hamstring issue again, it's something that's been a bit niggly all year. I'd rather them take the same approach that they did with Callum Wilson regarding the hamstring. It's one of those now where because he's obviously speed orientated a lot of the stuff he does. We know how quick a hamstring can go, so I would rather him take an extra 2 weeks to to miss 1-2 games rather than come back for this game and then niggle it again and that's be gone for the season. So I'd rather them take the extra couple of weeks just to make sure it's 100%. Regards Miggy, if his training gets a good weeks of training this week, I would probably be likely to. I wouldn't need necessarily to rush him to put him back in the team because the team's done well without him. Unfortunately for him. But obviously, you look at, Murphy's played well, Gordon's played well in his absence on that front as well. They haven't lost with him out at the team, unfortunately. And it's one of those things. Have the other people have taken the chance to get the shirt? Miggy did it when he came at the team. He got the shirt, kept it. Others are doing the same now, so it's up for them to give the shirt up now. Obviously, Murphy's going to be under a bit of pressure after what happened last weekend because he didn't have a fantastic 45. So obviously the pressure will be back on him again. But if he goes back to how he's been playing before that, when Miggy first got injured, then Miggy's going to have a fight to get back back into the side.
No, I think that's more than fair. There were some people that were quite vocal on social media earlier on today that I saw that were saying that they didn't want him back in, and actually saw him as the one negative because the fact that he's been injured since the international break. And then we've gone on and won 4 games on the bounce, even though he did win us the game against Wolves before the international break. But yeah, he's since he's not played. Sorry, it was Forest before the international break. they were kind of trying to justify him not being in the team. I just found it really strange. I really did. But look, Miggy's back, top goal scorer. Great to have him back in amongst things. And I don't know about you. I just think everything is falling into place for us this season. In terms of we're going into the back end of the season, 9 games to go. We're flying in terms of confidence. These boys at the moment are playing and doing the stuff. We're managing, fingers crossed, touch wood, with injuries well. Is it going to be our season? Is it going to be our season that we hit the objective this time? We didn't quite do it in 2012, get Champions League football. Do you boys at this point now think that we're going to get Champions League football as it stands?
Yes. But still hesitant and always looking over my shoulder on it and looking at the games around us as well that are all key to us finishing in that top 4. It's hard.
What's the hesitancy?
Hesitancy is it's hard to believe. It's hard to believe we are as high as we are coming from where we came and everything like that. And it's all happened so quickly as well. And it just would be such a shame to miss out on the Champions League in top 4 now. It'll still be an absolutely brilliant season. And I had them down as finishing 8th or higher at the start of the season. So whatever happens, we've had a brilliant season. But it's just to leave it after us now it would be a shame. And there's tricky games coming up, like with Villa, Spurs, Everton, Southampton, Arsenal, Leeds, Leicester, the Brighton game that has to be rearranged, and Chelsea. So there's like some more winnable than others there, but the run we're on 4 from 4, is it? But since we did our run-in thing with 3 from 3, it's still until it's mathematically we're over the line. It's going to be, you're always going to be that. I can't be the only one that has that kind of a worry.
I don't know, Richie. Have you got the same hesitancies that Daz has? Obviously, still confident, still believes that we've got Champions League, but obviously that slight hesitancy there. Do you share the same sentiment?
No, I wouldn't say as negative as Daz. That's just the Geordie fan base over the Mike Ashley era. To be fair, isn't it? So, do you know what I think? Looking at the way everyone else is playing as well, recently hitting that consistency run at just the right time. It's the ball's now a court. We've said numerous times. A few of us have said the ball's now a court. You know what I mean? It's in our hands that if we go and beat them now, that's as Champions League football. I think for me, and I probably agree with. I think it would be the majority of the fan base that'll be like this. I think when we get Villa and Spurs out the way, where we stand after that too, I think that'll indicate how confident the fan base will get, because obviously it's a tricky away game. Obviously, with going to Villa, I don't put Villa in the Champions League mix. I think you're probably looking for them. They've put themselves in the fray for Europa League and Conference League and sort of stuff. So, and it will be a difficult game to go to. I think since Emery's come into the job, I think I read the other day that there's only Mikel Arteta and Arsenal have picked up more points in the same spell since he took over in October. So obviously that's good for Villa fans and stuff like that. But however, at the same period of time, they came to St James's Park and got beat 4-0 off us. And yeah, it was a close game while it was still 0-0 and stuff. But obviously, once we took the lead and Villa had to come out of the blocks, they've capitulated at the back. And to be fair, nothing's really changed on that front now. Like towards the back, I think if it gets to the stage where if Newcastle go ahead, I think the same will happen again, because Aston Villa don't like chasing games. And I think recently they haven't been chasing games. They've been ahead in games, so they haven't had to. It's been a different game plan, which I think will change. And obviously we'll discuss this probably more tomorrow night on away days and stuff like that, with obviously when Rich joins us. But I think this is the tough one that's left in the running. And I think Spurs at home, obviously we know how close to them they are as a rival for that Champions League spot. If we beat them, I think it's nailed on.
Yeah. Well, that's you were going to say something?
Yeah. No, just two things. One is I don't know if you saw it yesterday. Jordan had a great article in Newcastle World where they talked about looking back over the previous number of years and the points totals that has got people in got clubs into the Champions League and into the Europa League and in obviously into the Conference League as well. So that's a good one. They ran the numbers, and I was just imagining there was this Jordan and Liam there with calculators. It wasn't a big theory, big algorithm going in the background or anything like that. But yeah, it was a good article there to read, and it does kind of give you more confidence if you're looking for that extra bit of confidence. But I'm just wondering. And I'll throw this back to you then, Pete, right? Because you're throwing these questions at us. How much further do we have to go before we can say, forget about that Conference League? We're not going. We won't be anywhere near that. We're well past that stage.
I think 4 points. 4 wins and 2 draws gets us Champions League football. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
4 wins and yeah. So you're looking at that point. You're closing in on 70 points. I think 70 points. Anything around 70 points gets you Champions League football. I believe that Man United will drop points. Tottenham have got a tough run in after they play us, and I do believe that we will be as consistent as we have been. I'm not saying we're going to win every game, far from it. We've got some tough games to play, but I do believe that. Okay, let's say 5 wins assures Champions League football from 9 games. So that's 4 games to kind of play around with. You've got the and I'll even name where I think we will win between now and the end of the season. So,
do you want the? I
know the games I think we win, but yes,
yeah. I'll just see can I get it here. 1 sec. They should do it. Now, here we go.
Okay, so the games that I believe that we will win, and I'm confident that we're going to win. Everton away is 1. Southampton at home.
You better.
Yeah, you better. Leicester at home. And these are ones I'm confident that we'll win. Spurs at home.
Spurs at home.
So they're other. So other than Everton away, I've gone for those 3 home games: Spurs, Southampton, and Leicester. I believe that they're the 4 games that I'm confident that we will win. But that doesn't include this Saturday. Can we win it? Of course we can. That doesn't include Arsenal at home. We did it last season, albeit a different Arsenal team, albeit a different Newcastle team. I've not even included Brighton at home there. Brighton will be fit somewhere, and obviously Chelsea aren't playing well at the moment. Last game of the season, will they have anything to play for? Will they bed in new players? And we're still going for Champions League football. It will be nicely set for us at Stamford Bridge. So you look at those games. Like I said, I'm not saying we're going to win them all, but they're the games: Spurs, Everton, Southampton, and Leicester. I think that we will win. And look, I do believe that if we go and beat Spurs, we push them further down the pecking order. It could well be, fingers crossed, at that point, by beating Spurs, it could be putting us 6 points clear of them with a game in hand still. So it puts us right in the driving seat potentially. But it gives us an opportunity, even if we, for example, lose at Villa, it gives us an opportunity to bridge that gap again by beating them at St James's Park. So, either way, it works in our favour. So, I mean, they're mine. They're mine.
Yeah.
What do you boys think? What are you looking at? Because you kind of given a points total, but where do you see us potentially? We've talked about this before, but as the games are dwindling down, things might have changed from what you thought previously. So, That's Richie. What are your thoughts with regards to that? Where do you think we'll definitely, or you're confident that we're going to get points from?
I'll have this one. I'll have this one to Richie because I'll give you the Eddie Howe answer, and it's just one game at a time. One game at a time. Just focus on the Villa game, nothing else. One game at a time. Richie.
To be fair, and it's something that's been raised in the chat as well. By obviously we'll get around to it in a bit, but there's a lot of people who say we go unbeaten from now out and see the season out, and that's a huge possibility. I'm not saying win out. To say it unbeaten, we can go on that run like we did earlier in the season, where we went unbeaten, didn't concede a goal for God knows how long it was. So we this squad is capable of doing it under Eddie Howe. And to be fair, if you look at, I still think this weekend's probably still our most difficult fixture, only because of the form that Villa are in. Yeah. But I also think that puts themselves on. Is it one of those ones where they're going to be a bit more overconfident now because who have they really played in that little spell of the run they've gone in? That's at a point as well. They haven't faced anyone like the caliber of Newcastle are this season in that run. But then after that, you look at Spurs have been hit and miss all season. They could turn up at Newcastle and it could be a game similar to what it was last time when they came to St James's Park, when they narrowly beat us in the owners' first game under the new owners, wasn't it? And we lost 3-2, where we took the leads, through Callum Wilson, and obviously we were with Steve Bruce's team and capitulated to 3-1 down, and then obviously pulled one back, and it looked a bit better than what it did. And Spurs, to be fair, aren't much better of a squad and a team than that day. Whereas we are a completely different animal, as I've said earlier on, than what we were when we played them then. So, I think we win Spurs. And then obviously you look at Everton. We've discussed this before. Everton, we can, they're a bit more defensively solid under Dyche than what they were under Lampard. And to be fair, we battered them off the park last year, and everyone watched that one and, did the unforeseen events of the stop oil guy cable tied himself to the post and 40-minute stoppage time. Did that play a part in breaking the rhythm up? Was that Everton's attempt of, as we'll also get into later on, slowing the game down?
Yeah.
Slowing the game down. We'll talk more about that.
Yeah, I was going to say you're segueing this to another section.
Yes, you are. We know where you're going.
It's because we've become a bit more pros at this sort of thing. That's why we can segue into the next topic and stuff, isn't it? But then you look at Southampton. You think a win there. Arsenal, obviously, I think it's more that there's more pressure on Arsenal for that game than us, because they're fighting for that Champions League spot and they cannot afford to slip up. I don't know. Did they play City before the Cup of Newcastle? Does anyone know? Obviously, they've got to go to the Etihad, don't they? And obviously, we haven't got.
I think they do. I think they go next, don't they?
No, wasn't there something about the Arsenal Chelsea game has been moved? So the duration between the Arsenal Chelsea game and the Newcastle Arsenal game is now shorter. So that is a bit of an advantage to us. I just read that somewhere. I didn't actually check the dates myself, but sorry, and I don't know.
Arsenal go to City the night we play Everton. So when they obviously 10 days after that they come to Newcastle. That they could have Man City right on their coattails then. Yeah, you know what I mean. If I can't see Man City getting beat at the Etihad off Arsenal. So if you look at that round of fixtures, there's a lot of pressure on Arsenal, and this is where Man City are used to this sort of stuff. They've been in it in every single year going forward. These type of games. Arsenal have had a lead for a long time now, and they've said, "Can they hang on? Can they hang on?" Because this squad's never been through that before. This game is going to, they capitulated last year when they were trying to get Champions League. What are they going to be like trying to win the league? Come to Newcastle. And then the rest of the season, obviously, I've said Brighton, obviously, we don't know what Brighton's going to be as an exact fixture. Chelsea, we could already have Champions League football sewn up by then. Do you know what I mean? It could just be a good one. They've got Champions League caliber, world class players in that squad, where Newcastle could turn around and say, let's just take this as a early pre-season Champions League game and see what we can head up against those type of players, because hopefully there won't be any pressure on them there. So there's this nice little patch of games now. Even Leeds away used to be one of those ones where it was always awkward, but then you see what happened at the weekend when they capitulated against Palace.
Yeah.
Do you know, 4 goals in the second half? It was horrible. I don't know if anyone actually saw the game, but I saw the highlights, and they were awful. Seriously, absolutely awful that second half.
Even when they took the lead, Rich, they were still poor. They conceded chance after chance. The only reason I didn't put them down as a guaranteed win is because Leeds just have a knack of turning up against better teams. When it's the teams around them, they tend to play shocking. But I've seen them against better teams this season, even more recently, and they just tend to up their levels a little bit. And that's my only concern, really. Do I think we can win it? Of course we can, but it's one of them ones where they just turn up and just either get lucky or just one of those things. But it just going on to your point, Richie, about people in the chat saying that potentially we could be unbeaten at the end of the season. I'll just nick the chat just for a second. Just keep it up here, lads. Lost 3 games in 29 games. On that average, we will only lose 1 more game this season. So, that again fills us with a little bit of confidence because, just on those averages of the fact that we've barely lost this season.
We discussed that when we did the predictions the other week, before the last 3 games. We said we've already lost 3 games this season. And we said if Newcastle were to go and lose 3 more games in between that spell, obviously, we had Man United in that time. We've had Brentford, which is ever tricky games, which we've won. If we'd lost 3 games out of the rest of those 12 games, we could still be done for Champions League football anyway. I always remember, and this has gone back to like the days when Alan Hansen used to be on Match of the Day and stuff like that. He said, if you ever want to be in, considered for winning the league or top 4, you cannot lose more than 6 games in a season.
Yeah.
That was always like the bar limit. You can't lose 6 games. You cannot get Champions League football and above. And we're on that scale.
You'll never win anything with kids either. He used to say that one too.
Yeah,
he definitely did. But look, we've got over 130 in the chat. Welcome everyone for joining us so far. Great to have you with us. If you haven't already, click the like button. Everyone click that thumbs up right now. Should hopefully get over 130 likes, just like that. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. We're building to 6K, and thank you everyone for joining us. Get your questions in because it is a Q&A. There's loads of questions already in the chat, and we will come to them. 20 plus questions coming in and throw them your way. And we've got our own little discussion points as we've already had at that point. But speaking of Alan Hansen. Thank you, Richie. His old Match of the Day partner seems to have a bee in his bonnet about Newcastle United. Mark who is the word. He doesn't see.
Was that the defensive coach that Kevin Keegan was brought in for Newcastle? The one who was on the coach but still hates us.
Yeah. Hates everybody apart from Liverpool, but definitely hates us more than anything. What are you made of those? What are you made of those comments today that he's come out and said to the Chronicle, or the Chronicle have reported on it with regards to Newcastle being the worst team in the league for time wasting and how it's come a part of the game in the Premier League. What have you made of those thoughts with regards to that?
Yeah,
finger pointing again with regards to time wasted.
He went downhill for me after he shaved the mustache, as he lost that bet, to tell you the truth. But Mark Lawrenson, look, I had to click on it today because I thought I just assumed it was something to do with Saudi and the link in there somewhere that he was having to dig at Newcastle for. But no, it was about time wasting. All right, here we go. Yeah, there's plenty of clubs you could pin that on. And the dark arts that gets talked about now as well. But yeah, move on. Nothing to see here. Don't even bother clicking on the article if you see it.
Yeah, Richie, I'll add that to you actually, because Daz has just mentioned the dark arts. Not only has Mark Lawrence mentioned it, but Thomas Frank seems to be in his bonnet after his presser on Saturday.
I think the only thing that he's going to be in the bonnet about is the fact we've got a £63 million striker, because he's constantly mentioned it since Saturday evening. 60, they had a £63 million striker who scored the goal. He said it about half a dozen times in interviews. Proper greats. And I mean, you're thinking, come on, man, you're Brentford, you ain't going to have that sort of money to really be spending on people like Alexander Isak and stuff like that. You might get it for a centre forward that you've got on your playing squad, but you won't ever then spend it on the striker replacement, because that 60 million would be reinvested in the whole squad, not on one player. Brentford won't be going and spending 60 million on a player for a long, long time. So.
Yeah. What we really need now? We really need someone that's going to play devil's advocate.
It's funny you said that. This is someone else who went downhill after he shaved his tash off 10 years ago.
This guy have a tash. This guy. Did you have a tash, Chris?
No, well, weirdly, no, I didn't have a tash, but when I first met Lisa, I was doing Movember, so she only knew me with a tash, which was a bit strange. But
Magnum
yeah.
PI.
Yeah. It's not a good look. I've got to be honest. It's not a good look. I won't tell you what our boys called me, but yeah, it wasn't nice.
You'll have to know.
I'll tell you offline. Yeah.
We'll put it out as a tweet later on. Don't worry.
I was going to say, Pete, going back to what you were saying about the time wasting, did anybody see the 442 video that Adam Cleary did the other day? And actually, it was brought about the shithousery that Newcastle is, and it went through all stats and stuff. And Leeds actually have a worse record for ball and play than Newcastle do. But he also, as we said, played devil's advocate here, and he turned around and he said, Leeds came before we went to Arsenal, which was the first time that Newcastle really turned around and said about being time wasters and stuff. But 3 days before, when Leeds came to Newcastle and did to us, Leeds were praised for doing it to Newcastle and putting the ball, and being shithouses to us. And the fact is, teams are doing that to us as well. It's all right to say Newcastle have done it. They're the second worst of ball and play. But if other teams are doing that to Newcastle as well, that's not just Newcastle's fault for ball and play. That's got to be something to do with the opposition you're playing as well. But he went. If anyone has actually seen it, go and watch the 442 video on their podcast on YouTube channel. Adam Cleary. It's a fantastic video that breaks everything down and proves that Newcastle aren't the team that Mark Lawrence and a lot of pundits have said. Yes, we're getting good at shithousing and stuff like that. And, he mentioned it. Obviously, the point he was the fact that Aaron Ramsdale dropping to the floor with the ball. Nick Pope's in that this season. There's loads of keepers. If you look at now, and I know Chris will pick up on this, the amount of times you see people in chat and stuff about betting and saying, go and put some money on the goalkeeper, say Neto at Bournemouth, or the Wolves keeper for whatever reason. If they've got a 1-0 game, see, Wolves had Spurs Chelsea on Saturday, they were 1-0. And that's some of these chats I was saying to people, go put money on the Wolves keeper, go put the money, because they'll be holding out and he'll be picking the book up at the end, because he'd be, how many times do we see keepers getting booked in the last 10 minutes for time wasting? And it's not just Newcastle that do it; it's everybody. It's just people don't like seeing Newcastle being the bully boys in the Premier League anymore.
And we're better than everyone else, Harry.
Yeah,
simple as.
Yeah. Just a disclaimer: be gamble awareness as well, just so we get that in, Richie.
It's like when we saw Brentford when they were trying to copy the Trippier move. When he had the penalty. And the commentator was going, I don't think there's any doubt that Ivan Toney's going to have this penalty. And you could see Nick Pope was onto it. Nick Pope was just like, there's no point talking to you because I know you're not going to take it. Tony's going to take it.
Yeah, that trick wasn't going to work for sure. But great to see you, Chris. Great to see you.
Oh, yeah. Good to be on, lads. Good to be on. I apologise I'm late. I've been out with Lisa and the kids. I've had a nice afternoon, actually. It's been good. But, we're running slightly late. So I was listening in. On the way back, but yeah, nice to be back on. Feels like I've not been on for ages, so really good to be back. No.
Pete, where are we going to next? Should we take a question in our Q&A show?
I think, you know what? Why not take two? Let's take
Oh.
two.
I'll tell you what, the first one I've got here off Tom Nixon was actually one I actually thought of earlier, and I was going to put to you, so it's actually quite a good one. And it basically says, no, it's not a quiz question, Daz, don't worry. You've got a chance of answering this one. Who would you take from the 9 clubs at risk of relegation? Obviously, there's players that you think could fit our mould. Obviously, we've had people like Ruben Neves has been mentioned. Obviously, they're under threat. James Maddison's obviously been linked with. Is there anyone that either, say, obviously there's 9 teams, as Tom's mentioned there. Name a couple of players, that you think Newcastle should be looking for out of those teams that you think, we could realistically get.
Declan Rice.
We'll start with you, Pete.
What, do you want me to go through all the teams?
No, just pick 2. You know what I mean? Just pick 2 players that you think would benefit Newcastle's squad.
Okay. 2 players.
Well, should we just move on to one? Because the first one's going to be James Maddison.
And we can't repeat. We can't repeat.
Okay.
We can't repeat.
Okay, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, you fighter.
You're going first. You're okay, Pete.
What's that?
You're going first. You're okay.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm just thinking because you went about who we need. Okay, I will say.
God, this is like picking the elite team in Loaded Football Weekly, isn't it? When you spin the wheel, sort of thing.
I'll have to say that I love that. It was great.
James Maddison's a given, so I would say we need someone like James Maddison, and I'm going to stick with the same team, and I'm going to go Harvey Barnes.
Reasons?
Two reasons. One, that they're both English, and 2, they both are consistently in double figures with goals or assists, or both, which is exactly what we need to add to our team.
Okay, Daz?
Okay, Pete robbed one of mine. I was going to say Harry Barnes because he came up in conversation as well, and we will get on to that with Graham Bailey's article. But okay, so as I said, Declan, sorry, yeah?
How old is Harvey Barnes again?
He's
great age.
He's 25 feet.
25. Great age.
Great age. I actually thought he was younger. I thought he was around 23. Yeah, it surprised me that he was 25.
He must have just turned 25.
No. Yeah, it was December. Check that out as well. So he'd be 26 in December. So an okay age. I thought he was younger, and but Eddie Howe would get the best out of him for sure, and he's a quality player. So someone I'd like to see rock up. Okay, so I have to pick someone else. Pick 2. I'm going to say, because West Ham are still in the mix, I've said before, I'm going to pick 2 from West Ham. So this is where we're going to go. I'm going to say Declan Rice, and I'd also take Paqueta as well. I thought he had a decent game against us. Depending on they'd have to get relegated first to have any chance of getting Paqueta as well as Rice, and we'd have to get Champions League football as well for that to happen. So I'm going to go 2 from West Ham and Paqueta and Rice.
It's interesting you say about you would need Champions League football to get Paqueta, but West Ham got him without Champions League football, so you don't necessarily need it. You just got to have a better project.
Sorry, yeah. For I think West Ham would have to. Well, I suppose that's linked back to the question about clubs at risk of relegation. So West Ham would have to be relegated for because he'd stay otherwise. They'll keep him. But yeah, that's you wouldn't need Champions League for Paqueta, no. But for Declan Rice, I think we definitely would.
Richie, Paqueta won't make the same mistake twice. He made the mistake of jumping to West Ham because he was desperate to get out of Lyon, seeing how Bruno was tearing it up in the Premier League. He was just desperate to get out. This time, if he leaves, he's going to go to the top.
His international future is going to be dependent on it as well. So he needs to make a right decision.
Okay, Chris, what about you then?
Well, I'll pick 2 left field ones, so hopefully, Rich, these weren't on your list. But I know one of them definitely won't be on your list. But looking at the teams, and I've got a fixation on this lad because I think he'd be brilliant.
Andy Carroll.
No, I did look for Redden, but I couldn't see them. I couldn't pick Andy Carroll. No, I would go for Ben Godfrey from Everton. I think Ben Godfrey for Everton would be fantastic for us. I feel really, I constantly moan to me blue mates about Ben Godfrey because he's constantly played either left back or right back, predominantly left back, and he's a centre back. And I just think if he played centre back and, you know, we worked under a fantastic coach like Eddie Howe, and he'd probably be somebody who, you know, would be willing to come in maybe as understudy to Shah with a view to replacing him. I think he'd jump at the chance of a move to Newcastle because when Everton signed him from Norwich, he come with a really good reputation, gone through the ranks at England's level. I think Ben Godfrey would be brilliant. He's got all the tools to be a really, really good player. And I just feel at Everton, he's just kind of probably to his detriment, the fact that he's a bit of a utility player, so he can play across a number of positions. I think that goes against him. Whereas I think if you played him at centre back, him next to someone like Sven Botman, I think he'd be brilliant. And then Kieran Trippier, the other side of him. I generally think, Ben Godfrey would be a good signing.
Chris, do you think he's a big upgrade on Lascelles as the right centre back?
Right now, probably not a big upgrade, but I do think he's got the potential because I'm pretty sure Ben Godfrey's only 22, 23.
Great age.
Great age. So I think he's got all the potential in front of him. And as I say, he's got all the tools. You know, big, strong lad. He's quick. So I think he'd be a good one. My second one would probably be looking at the teams and based on what you lads have already said, I'd probably say Aït-Nouri from Wolves. I think bringing him in a left back. We know we're after a left back, and again, if coached properly, I think he could be brilliant. We had Little Dan on. On the Wolves podcast, and he was waxing lyrical about Aït-Nouri. Not maybe the last time we had him on, but the time before, he was saying how brilliant he was, and he watches him week in, week out. So the clips I've seen of him, I think he looks really, really good. And I think both of those players as well, you're not talking silly money, so you're buying potential really. But if you could pick them up for 15, 20 million a piece, I think they'd be good additions to the squad. I think they'd be really good.
Yeah. Chelsea aren't in this mix here, are they? Just to clarify.
No, they're not. They're not. Tom's referring to Palace down.
Yeah.
And to be fair, Palace are on 33 points now, so Palace probably needs a win and another draw or something like that.
Yeah. Richie, Chris Wood is still available. Just to put it out there to you.
Don't worry, I'm not going for Shelby either. I don't know. It's a difficult one because there's a few different players at different teams. Obviously, you've mentioned quite a lot. Anyway, one player I really like, but obviously I'm not going to class him in that relegation mix because I don't think Palace are going to go down. And no, it's not Zaha. I really like Michael Olise. I just think he's absolutely phenomenal on that right hand side. Was it 3 or 4 assists he got on Sunday against Leeds? He was absolutely phenomenal. I just think, you look at the free kick he took against Man United when they got the point last minute down at Selhurst Park as well. I think the one thing you need to work on him is his consistency. He's a bit more consistent than I would say Maxi is, obviously, because Maxi, we know we look at Maxi because we always tend to say he does full games. He has fits and bursts during games and stuff like that. But if you say what overall games he has, he's probably a little bit more consistent than that. But he's got that pure raw talent. So that was one player I was going to mention. But obviously, I don't think Palace will go down now. I think Roy Hodgson's just going to come in and galvanise them, and I can't say them going down. The two I think I like Mohamed Salah with Southampton. I think he's an absolute rock of a centre-back. And the fact that Alan Shearer really rates him as well as a centre-back, what you look at. And I don't know if anyone saw this yesterday, it was mentioned he's been left out by Southampton since March, since there was interest from a few different clubs and whether his head's been turned or whatever. But he is fit, not being any matchday squads. And to be fair, whether that's right by the manager or not to do that, I don't know. Surely you still want your best, even if he wants to be away. Surely he wants to be out there and put himself in the shop window Well, that's how I would be if I was wanting to be away from a club. You want to be putting yourself out, showing what you can do and stuff like that. Sit on the bench, which is a bit what happened to Ryan Fraser when he said he downed tools. That doesn't look good on anyone, whether that's his choice or whether that's the manager's choice. We don't know. But I just think he's 23-year-old, great age. But I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on. And the other one that I think it's the fact that the fans really love him and as we know after speaking to our Wolves contact in Little Dad, he and a lot of other Wolves fans would hate the fact that we got Ruben Neves. I just think for what you'd get him for and what he could do in that midfield, he's a set piece taker as well. It's another option over Trippier. He can allow Bruno to go and play a little further forward and stuff like that. And the cost you probably get from 26-year-old, as Dad says, all right age. I don't know. It's one of those. I think it'd be a good deal. Bear in mind, obviously, we are going to get into FFP later on in a few weeks' time and stuff like that. It's not one that's going to cost the same sort of money that a Declan Rice would, a James Maddison potentially would. It's one of those where you could probably get him over the line for 20, 25 million, in my opinion.
Champions League
Over the line.
Yeah.
Played in the Champions League, got that experience, albeit at a younger age. Captain at his club, leader on the pitch. It's a no-brainer.
It certainly is.
It's a great question, though, Tom. Good question.
Yeah, definitely was. Just something that we wanted to highlight here because obviously question that Lisa's actually put in there has to be linked in. We like segues as we do. Pete, do you want to tell us a little bit more about this? And then I'll go on to Lisa's question.
Yes. So, look, it's happening. It is happening. We've got Newcastle Fans TV versus Loaded Mag NUFC, the charity match that everybody or nobody wants to see. Let's see how it pans out after 5 or 10 minutes when we kick off. But look, we've come together as channels because it's for a really, really good cause. And we've got a great relationship with Lee, Johnny, and the team over at Newcastle Fans TV. And we just wanted to do something that was a little bit fun and a little bit different. And why not make it and take advantage of the fact that all of his boys will be up in Newcastle for that weekend for the Southampton game. So let's kind of do something a little bit different that's going to raise a little bit of money. So we've targeted the Gateshead Food Bank on the Just Giving page. We've set the bar at £200. So it's not too taxing, but it's still a good number that we can give, and it can benefit the food bank. So look, if you have, it doesn't matter how big or how little it is, if you can donate on the Just Giving page that we put on the screen just a second ago, it really, really, really would make a difference to people in the area. We know how tough it is in this country at the moment, with the gas and energy prices, with food prices and everything going up, especially since the turn of April. It's all gone up again, making it even more expensive in the cost of living. So if we can try and help out, let's make a difference. That's for sure. And look, we'll be playing at the Newcastle NUFC Foundation. So we'll be playing their 6-a-side match. We'll be having a couple of 25-minute matches against Newcastle Fans TV, who have got a little bit of experience of playing these 6-a-side matches. So we're coming into it a little bit blind. They've got a little bit more experience than us. But look, let's say
Pete, when you say experience, some of us will be meeting for the first time on that day. So that's how much experience we have of playing football. Hello, nice to meet you.
Daz, people don't say we've got chemistry on screen. I hate to think what's going to be like chemistry on the pitch, mate.
We'll be literally saying hello, and then the whistle's being blown, and then we're having to cohesively.
It's like giving a ball to a 5-year-old in the first training session and just seeing what happens.
Yeah, literally. But look, it's going to be fun. It is fun. most importantly, it is fun and it's for a good cause. So there's no sort of serious element around it. Of course, there'll be winners or losers. Winners.
I hate losing, Pete. I hate losing.
Of course, look, as we're building towards the time, we'll do a couple of shows around tactics, and we'll announce the squad because we have got some people that are joining the squad.
I think we keep that under wraps until the last couple of days before.
Yeah, we're not going to give anything away, but we've got some additions to the squad who are
ex-professionals.
Yeah, and they'll probably have the lungs that we don't have currently. But yeah, it's going to be fun, exciting. So again, we are going to be promoting it. So you'll see it lots and lots and lots in the days and weeks to follow in the build up to the 29th. So yeah, if you see it and you've got a few pounds to spare, come and donate for a really, really, really good cause. And hopefully we get to that. Hopefully we get to that 200 mark. And look, if we get over that 200 mark, that's a bonus. It means we can give even more, which is fantastic. So yeah, just a little bit on that. And I think at some point we will get Johnny, Lee, and the boys on the channel. So we can talk about it a little bit more, and maybe the battle will commence. Might need a battle down forward. Who knows? But yeah, let's see how it all kind of let's see how it all pans out. Apparently there's a goal. Real Madrid.
Yeah,
there is. Benzema's just scored.
That's right. So it won't be 3-0 to Chelsea. So, like Todd Bowley predicted. Just on the link, the link is pinned under the YouTube, the top of the YouTube, so you'll find the Just Giving link. Yeah, that's the one, Richie. And Lisa had a question on Twitter.
It was, obviously there is.
What time?
No, it wasn't about the time actually. No? Obviously, that might be helpful that we do actually let people know what time it is going to be kicking off. But is anybody actually going to be interested in coming to watch it? Is anyone going to come and support us? Because there is limited space for spectators. Yeah. But by all means, obviously, give us a shout. It might be something where we put a bucket on the door or something. Obviously, when we get enough, obviously put a donation, come in. Obviously, as I said, it's a charity football match sort of thing. So, by all means, reach out, see, one of the lads or the channel Twitter, or even like people like Lisa as well. Lisa might be able to get like a little mini bus together and bring people over for the game. You never know. But
Richie, I have asked. We've spoken to Johnny about spectators. I think he mentioned. I think it's about maximum of maybe like 50.
I think he said 60. I think it was. 50, 60 seems to ring a bell.
Yeah, that could potentially come and watch. So if you are free on that Saturday, we'll be kicking off around midday, 12 o'clock. It's around 12 to 1 ish. So yeah, feel free to.
There might only be space for 30 though, because I've heard on the grapevine that the Liverpool entourage is going to take up about 30 on the wheel.
He's oblivious.
There.
Cole Seggy's put about streaming it now. Wanted to ask the question on social like that. Yeah. And Johnny did come back and said it's something he is looking into. So there could well be the potential of it being streamed, so you can see us falling over ourselves and out of breath after 2 seconds of a sprint live. Or you can see quality goals. You can see clean sheets. You can see Bruno-like passes from us, not from them.
And if we're able to walk after that game, we will be in town somewhere in some pub that night. We have to get together ourselves and come up with a location to meet them and give up a time. So so more details of that as we come up with them ourselves. So we haven't planned that yet, so we have to do that. Yeah, that's coming up on the last weekend in April, on the 29th. That is that. Yeah, let's go for the next one.
There's a couple more ones before we move on to whatever we've got now. David Cook, he got the colour wrong, but he basically wanted to know, Daz, did you know if Joe Linton got a card at the weekend?
I'm glad you asked me that, David. Streaming across the bottom of the screen, you'll see now no yellow card or red card, no card of any description for Joe Linton. But thanks for clearing that up, David. And there was one or two questions on that at the weekend. Back to you, Richie.
Good question here from David Munden. It's about the Villa game on Saturday. And he said, if you only had 3 bullet points to get info across to the players for the Villa game, what would you focus on? Could it be what we need to do or what they do, or stop a mix of both? Because obviously it'll be a tough game.
It's an interesting question.
3 bullet
points to get across for the Villa game.
It'll be interesting to see whether Eddie Howe will potentially go back to the days of the sob on the tyne and stuff like that we had down at Villa Park. Because obviously that always seems to get brought about around the Villa away fixture, doesn't it? Because obviously that resonated. And obviously when Ant and Dec crying and all this and stuff like that. And because obviously we know he does have his little mind games and stuff like that, whether he'll actually use that or whether we've got the stage now where Newcastle have moved on from that because we're in a better place as a club now. And they're the ones who are under us for a change. You know what I mean? They're looking to get Europa League football. We're looking to get Champions League football. We're in different places now.
Well, that's
maybe you could get. Maybe you could get one of the tweets from Villa Watch added to that. That is a bit of inspiration.
Don't get wound. If anyone still watches that Villa Watch, don't get wound up about that rubbish. It is. It's just rubbish. There's an obsession with Newcastle. So don't even get drawn into it. But one of the
I just think it's big. I just think it's Big Frank's brother.
Well, probably. No, apparently, someone had come out and said it is actually a Villa fan, and I don't know, something to do with he's got to be in his bonnet about Newcastle. But you got to remember, ultimately, the issue is that with Newcastle, unfortunately, our fans do bite, and we do bite, and we do respond, and because of that, it then becomes a bit of a problem off the back of that. So that's why. But what I will say is that one of the bullet points should be Champions League football, because it's very clear: we win the game, we continue to push for Champions League football. So that would be one. Sob on the halt should be another one, because Sob on the halt should be pointed at them that if we win, that's what's going to be happening, because they're going to be crying into their bed sheets with the fact that we'll be playing Champions League football and they won't. And then you could, I think there was a good one actually. Someone put on there, target Mings on his right, because if we're going to score, Mings is going to make a mistake at some point to give us a goal, because he don't half love giving mistakes away. So yeah, I would say target Mings. So they're 3 decent bullet points. But look, I think someone just put something in the chat that we maybe need to mention, because it's a fantastic.
Which one was it there? Because I was just going to say before you moved on, I was just going to say a belated happy birthday to Mr. Jimmy Moore. All the best, mate. Hope you had a great day the other day.
Definitely.
Happy birthday, Jimmy.
That brings us to another discussion point, actually, later on in the second.
Segues, eh?
But yeah, we're segueing all over the shop tonight. But we just have been talking about the charity football match, and Ian McKenna, absolutely fantastic donation there.
Wow.
And we will put this forward into the pot.
Cheers, Ian. Cheers, Ian.
Thank you for putting that our way. Really do appreciate it. And it's a fantastic gesture for a great cause. So thank you very much for that. And look, everyone in the chat is saying how much of a legend you are, because you are, for putting that forward. So absolutely top man for that.
Cheers, Ian.
But you segued us nicely with the happy birthdays to Jimmy, because Jimmy must think it is his birthday, because Newcastle announced that in the summer they are doing the summer series. Daz, I don't know, you put this picture on there. I don't know if you want to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, so yeah, it was announced yesterday, I think. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. It was announced. Yeah, so the preseason trip over to the States. Of course, they didn't get to go last summer. So yeah, they're going this summer, and of course, yeah, there is one I see. They're stopping off at your house, Jimmy. They're stopping off in Atlanta as well, and so we played 3 games over there. On Sunday, the 23rd of July, we play Aston Villa. These times are local, so it's 7 p.m. Philadelphia time. Then on Wednesday, the 26th of July, we play Chelsea, 8:15, and one is in Atlanta, so that's the one you'll probably go along to, Jimmy. And then we on the 28th of July in New Jersey, they play Brighton at 7:30 New Jersey time. So interesting trips. Of course, it's going to make it awkward for us to be able to see them because they'll be really late at night. But I'm sure we will manage somehow. But yeah, a great little trip, and it expands our brand as well into the US, and then tap into that market. And that's where Darren Eales comes in as well, and to make us bigger and better.
Going back to his old stomping ground in Atlanta as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just pick that up as one of the talking points as well, and I saw 1 or 2 comments to the chat about. But lads, what do you think of this trip?
I think it's nice to be mentioned in these Premier League tours again. It's something that we got used to during the late entertainer days, and then the Bobby Robson days, and then pretty much non-existent under Mike Ashley and stuff like that. And as Daz just alluded to about tapping into the US market and commercial side of things, obviously Darren Eales and I can't remember the guy's first name, Silverstone, the guy who's the commercial manager. This is the sort of thing that's going to raise the profile, bring extra money into the kitty. That's going to help develop the club going forward. So stuff like this, and taking it back over there where it's been a long time. We were meant to go on a little bit of a pre-season tour over there last season. Obviously, it wasn't a Premier League official summer series. It was more just a mini tour that we put together ourselves. But to actually be playing teams in and around us at the moment, obviously will not include Chelsea in that mix because they're not there. They're the lowest ranked team in the summer series, which is weird to say. It might not be that case when it comes to what goes on, because I think they're going to have a big summer ahead of them. I can't see Frank Lampard being there. Obviously, they're going to be doing a big interview process for the long-term manager. So, it could be a really high-profile game that if they've got someone like Luis Enrique or Julian Nagelsmann in charge for them, can you imagine like the German Eddie Howe going up against Eddie Howe at Atlanta? And that would be an interesting fixture if that was the case. But it's really good to get to be able to take the club over to people like Jimmy and Carl, who will be able to, Carl get to see Newcastle games often, to go and see it over there. And it benefits everybody, the fact that you've got 3 good teams, good caliber, be able to rotate the squad. The only thing I didn't like about it was the fact you've got us going from the northeast down to the south to the back up to the northeast. It would have been better to have the Philadelphia and the New Jersey ones together, just to cut down on travel time. I think would have been better for. That was the only thing I thought was poor about it. But it's great to be putting these these trips again, sort of thing. So it's all positive going forward, in my opinion, lads.
Cool. Or puts money in the coffers. But yeah, you mentioned about Carl as well, and obviously Carl's put in there about him and the lads in the Tsunami Atlanta group. Obviously, going to be excited to see the players and stuff. Carl, if you can drop the channel a DM, because it'd be great to speak to you in the build up to that, to get some
good idea.
To get some footage and maybe your thoughts nearer the time as you're there live. So it'd be great to involve you in that with regards to the channel in the summer when that's taking place. So drop us a message and we can talk to you and put something together with regards to that. And the same for Jimmy as well, of course. But look, it is going to build. The only thing that I had an issue with, and I think it's part of a stepping stone, is really the clubs that are involved. What I would want to see in the future is us doing this sort of thing, but with your Man Uniteds, with your Liverpools, with your Real Madrids, with your Barcelonas, because they do that thing in America, but it's all of those top teams. And I would love us to branch off into that section. I know we're building and we're not quite there yet, but they're the big money spinners. So it'd be interesting, the fact that it's interesting that Chelsea are in the mix for this one, but it'd be interesting to see where those teams are going in the summer. Where are Real Madrid playing? Where are Barcelona going? Where are Man United or Liverpool going? Are they doing their own thing, or are they doing their thing but just somewhere else? That's what I'm interested in, because look, eventually we're going to want to be part of the big boys and what they're doing in terms of pre-season. So that'll be our next step, I imagine.
No, it's a good point, Pete. We'll just have to wait till the Champions League draw though, to see where they end up, and where we end up, what group we're in, things like that to look forward to.
Just to add on that, actually, and I'll bring it up because Emma on the Jordan Down South chat made a really great point, because there have been one or two people that have questioned about, if we finish fourth, for example, will we miss out a little bit like we would have in 2012 had we finished fourth, because Chelsea won the Champions League. But Emeka did a little bit of digging. He put only top three will qualify if Man United win the Europa and Chelsea win the Champions League. It says Man U drop out. And Man U drop out of the top four. So there are three eventualities that have to take place in order for us to lose a spot. So the fact that Chelsea are not winning right now, it puts us in a good place right now at this point.
I don't think anyone can see them getting beat off Real Madrid, to be fair.
No. It looks like it's going to be, I think, a comfortable win, although Real Madrid said that, Real Madrid, I think, are the holders from last year, and they're a quality side. I think they'll wipe the floor with Chelsea. But yeah, a few were a bit worried about that. But there's a few eventualities that have to take place in order for us to miss out. But as we've said, why not head for top three? In my opinion, but,
so where we are now.
Exactly. Right. This one came up about a couple of hours before the show that really interested me. And I want to get your thoughts on this, because I don't know how real it could be, or how much of a real possibility it could be. But this popped up from Transfer Market.
It's
and it is a bit of a rumour that Newcastle are or have been talking to representatives of Declan Rice about a possibility of a move in the summer. Now, it's got on there that his market value is 80 million euros, 24 years old. It's clear that with a year left on his contract that he's going to leave West Ham in the summer. What do you guys make of this? And how believable is this in your own minds that this could potentially happen in the summer?
For me, there could be talks kind of ongoing, possibilities if we get into Champions League. I think Eddie, the first time we played them, a couple of weeks ago, not the most recent game, Eddie Howe was kind of drooling when they came to Declan Rice. It's clear and obvious that he likes him, and he would love him to turn up at Newcastle. I think there'll be, like the other clubs you talk about in the mix, the likes of Arsenal, maybe a few more. I think Arsenal will have been linked to others as well, like Moise Caicedo and a few different options as well. And of course, the whole talk of Jude Bellingham as well, and Liverpool potentially dropping out of that race. But yeah, I think it's a possibility if we get Champions League football, and I'd pay that 80 million euro for him as well. At 24, I think he could be a key player for us for the future.
Boys, what are you thinking? How real do you think this is? This could potentially be. Could it materialize in the summer, in your opinions?
I think it's relevant, and it's something that could definitely happen. Because I don't know whether you lads remember when obviously we drew West Ham up at St James's Park in the season. The reaction that was quite good, and I believe wasn't there a bit of crack between Kieran Trippier and Declan Rice after the game, and they were having a laugh. And
there was a video from the fans, I think in the Gallagher, where I think there was Graham Jones and I think Jason Tyndall both went up to him because he was near the East End and put their arm around him, and they were kind of chatting away for a little bit. I remember seeing that video circulating.
But didn't someone say he also clapped the stadium as well when he was actually going off as well? It wasn't just the West Ham fans. So, he's got that situation where he knows Newcastle are a phenomenal place to come for his career, not just as a potential stepping stone. He could be a Newcastle legend going forward. Yes, some people have mentioned, look, he's a London boy. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Some people like to stay in London, but there's other players that's, we could do a Rob Lee. We'll just get Kevin Keegan to give him a call and just say, we're close to Middlesbrough or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
John Joe Shelby's the perfect example. He came from London and he absolutely loved it. He loved being in Newcastle. He found it perfect for him and his family. So it's a good point.
I wouldn't take any notice that he was Irish a couple of years ago, so he can change his mind.
But no, I think it would be fantastic. But I think what you've got to look at though is where are Newcastle spending the money though, because there's a lot of high profile players being linked, and I imagine and we'll get into it again. We've got a show lined up for the future on FFP. You've got to look at where we're going to finish. What commercial stuff's coming in? Obviously, the board knows a lot better than what we will on that sort of stuff. If we get in the Champions League, obviously how much money is then guaranteed for that and stuff like that. But obviously you look at it, players like James Maddison's being mentioned. Moussa Diaby keeps getting linked as well. And we're talking 50, 60 million pound players here. And then you're talking 80 million on Declan Rice. If it wasn't for the days of FFP that you're now, and if it was a bit more similar to what it was like when Abramovich came in or when Man City took over and he didn't have all those restrictions, it might be a possibility. So it all depends on what Eddie Howe thinks is the most essential part of the cog, to go going forward now, and then what can be added to later on. But don't get as well, if you had a midfield three of, say, Joe Linton, Bruno and Declan Rice, or Willock in the mix as well as one of the three with Bruno and Declan Rice, there's not many better midfield three than that in the Premier League at the minute.
Chris, would you? And we don't know the budget for the summer, but would you, if it came to it being an £80 million deal, would you fork out that money on Declan Rice?
Yes, I think if Declan Rice is willing to join, which I think he would. I think a lot of people are going to sit back if we finish in this top four, and I think there's going to be a hell of a lot of players who are interested in a move to Newcastle more than what people would think. Someone in the chat there wrote about Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham for me is probably the most exciting talent in Europe. He's probably a little bit out of our reach in terms of money. And also the fact that he could turn up at a Real Madrid or a Bayern or someone like that. But someone like Declan Rice, I suppose the two questions he would ask himself is this a move in the right direction? Is this a step up? And I think given you're looking at the two clubs at the moment, absolutely it is. He gets to play Champions League football. And what could some people see as a negative, but what could be a positive for us, as Richie alluded to earlier with John Joe Shelby, is that Declan Rice, he could go to Arsenal, he could go to Chelsea, but he's from London, and there'll be a lot of fans, West Ham fans, who'll be upset at the fact that he's left. They'll understand why, but they'll be upset. So would it not be better for them to just make a fresh start? Would it not be better for them to move out of the area and try something new?
Not just that though, Chris. There's a lot of people here he's been linked to, like Man United, for example. He's been linked with Arsenal. They've already got similar ilk of players there. Thomas Partey, Casemiro. Exactly. You've got Xhaka, Jorginho and stuff at Arsenal as well. You know what I mean? Is he going to be happy to be playing second fiddle to them sometimes? If he comes to Newcastle, he's a guaranteed starter every week.
Yeah. Well, look at Calvin Phillips, prime example. He's gone to Man City, fantastic club. He struggles to get a game because he's got fantastic players in front of him. Whereas Eddie Howe, if Declan Rice has a conversation with Eddie Howe goes, "You're my main man in midfield. You're the one. You're the main number 6. You're there to protect the defence. It'll free Bruno up. You'll play in the midfield, if fit, with Bruno Gomes and either Joe Linton, Joe Willock, Sean Longstaff, whoever. But those two will be the first two names on the team sheet." So for me, I think, and we've discussed this in length, haven't we, lads? But I think they've probably got a list of players. Well, Eddie Howe's come out, hasn't he, and said they've got a list of players if they get top 4. They've got a list of players if they finish in Europe, so in the Europa League or Conference League, and then they've got a list of players if they finish in further down. And I think, I'm sure he said this before, there's certain players who they will probably scrap all plans if that player becomes available. And I think someone like Declan Rice, that's a major upgrade, isn't it? For that position, it's a major upgrade. And I think if a player like him becomes available, I think they'd park other ideas to get him in, because I think he'd be brilliant for us. I really, really do. He is the future. Great age, Premier League experience. Great age. Known as a leader, which Eddie Howe wants. He wants a team full of leaders. He's the captain at West Ham. People sing his praises. Here's one back to the boys. I know I always do this. If Eddie Howe gets put on a plate for him and you can either have James Maddison or you can have Declan Rice, which one do you think he'd choose? I know which one you'd probably choose, but which one do you think he'd choose?
Declan Rice, all day.
Yeah.
Can we put in a twist on that? Because Craig Lee's just put a slight little change to that one. He says that Bruno should stay as our 6. We're better off with a Bellingham type player who's more like Bruno and can do it all. Or the lad from PSV, which is Sangar, I presume he's talking about there. So who would you go for there if you had a choice between Bellingham and Rice? Would you keep? Do you know what I mean? I know it's an interesting comparison because obviously it depends on which role you're going to have as Bruno. Who, both the two players we're talking about, you can build a team, help build a midfield around for the future. Obviously, one of them would be there. He could potentially be there for his whole career. Do you know what I mean? So it's.
I mean, if you were to bring, sorry, I was going to say, if you said to Bruno, listen, we're going to keep you as a number 6 because we found a perfect number 8. I don't think Bruno would be unhappy with that. I just think that because we know anyway, don't we, that the midfield's quite fluid as it is. So, the players do, swap positions and some will come back, some will push forward and take turns and stuff like that. I think if you said to Bruno Gomes, by the way, we might be getting Jude Bellingham or someone of that ilk, you may have to play as the number 6. Is that okay? I think he'd be more than happy with that. But I do think the plan is to go for the more defensive-minded player who will probably be cheaper as well. But sorry, Daz, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to actually agree with you, Chris, and what you had said earlier about I think Bellingham will be out of our price range this summer. And Declan Rice, if we get Champions League, would be just about in our price range. So that's why I don't think Bellingham would be realistic. Now, fast forward a year, you might be able to pick him up then.
There's no guarantee that Bellingham will leave this summer. And that's been a murmuring with Bellingham recently, is that there's a chance that he may even stay for another year. But Dortmund do this. They did it with Sancho. They did it with Haaland. They'll keep him an extra year if they need to. Now,
I think they were looking at extending his contract, weren't they? So that would give them better terms as a release clause put into it, like a bit like they did with Haaland. But they're talking like a release clause of 120 million or something.
Well, they've already set the value at 130 this summer. So if anyone wants to buy him this summer, they have to pay 130, which is ultimately why Liverpool have gone, you know what, we're out the race. Liverpool can't afford him anyway, even if it was next summer. The price would still be too expensive for them to afford. They'd have to literally spunk their whole transfer budget on him to sign him. And I don't think Liverpool would be prepared to do that because they need too many players to kind of revamp their team. But for me, I think Newcastle want Bruno Gomes as a number 8. I think they want him further forward. I think they want him in his passing range to be further up the pitch. You look at the let's say Fulham, for example, those little triangles and connections with Miggy, the little inside passes over the top. He's not always able to do that when he plays in number 6. He almost has to say to Sean Longstaff, sit behind me, I'm going forward. Or there's that understanding that when he goes forward, someone sits in. But if you've got Bruno Gomes constantly pressing and pushing forward with the ball in those tight little spaces, you've got more chances of scoring goals or big chances being created. Yeah. So what you need there is a bulldozer, basically, someone that can break up play, but someone that can carry the ball and someone that can link the midfield really well, and someone like a Declan Rice would be a really good. And I take Alan's point. Alan Thompson said, he said the only rice he'll see is in his Sunday rice pudding or whatever it was. He made a good comment. Look, we're only talking hypothetically. We're not saying he's definitely going to come to the club, but the links are there. and they've come out, so we'll discuss it. And he would be a great addition to Newcastle.
Do you know what though? And I'm not having a go at Alan here at all, but if you think about it, like, why wouldn't he? Like, it's not as if we've scraped this top 4 as in we're just going to nick it if we get it. It's not as if we don't deserve it, which we do. And not just Declan Rice, but anybody across the leagues are going to be looking at us completely different to how they would say 3 seasons ago. Yeah, because we're only going to get bigger and better. We're in our 2nd year now of, like, transition. In 2 or 3 years' time, when Declan Rice is 26, 27, we could surpass the likes of Man United, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of Arsenal, the likes of Chelsea. I'm assuming Declan Rice wants to stay in the Premier League, and we've already spoken about it. The likes of Man City, he's not going to go to Man City, and I don't think Man City need him anyway, so they wouldn't go for him. Man United, he's up against the likes of Casemiro, Eriksen, Sabitzer if they keep him, McTominay, Fred. He's well above McTominay and Fred, but it's still a place to compete with. Fernandes. Chelsea, can they really afford him? Like, the spending's got to stop soon.
Chris, they've signed Fernandes.
Yeah.
And they're giving N'Golo Kante a new contract. So, like, they've got Kovacic already there. They're already shutting up shop with their players in that midfield already. But
is he going to Tottenham? Is Tottenham a better position than Newcastle at the moment? Well, exactly.
They can't afford him.
Is he going to Liverpool? Who again, great forward line, but there's something wrong in that team, and Declan Rice isn't going to fix it.
No. He isn't going to go to Chelsea. Have you seen Chelsea's midfield 3 tonight? Kante, Kovacic, and Fernandes. For me, they're all a similar mould.
Yeah. They're exactly the 3 we just mentioned. They're already in there, and that's before you even get into their backups. They've got the likes of Ruben Loftus-Cheek and 1 or 2 others that come in. Mason Mount, who potentially could be leaving, potentially could be staying. We don't know. Yeah. He'll be in the mix as well, with players potentially moving on. I don't see it. Is there another team? Did you mention Arsenal?
Arsenal? Yeah, sorry, Arsenal is the top 6 then, or the old top 6. You've got Partey, you've got Odegaard, you've got Xhaka.
Jorginho.
So, they've just got Jorginho as well. So it's like, well, once you get rid of those 6, where's he going to go?
Yeah, and the only way to go, where best to go, is to a club with no ceiling. That's us.
Genuinely, the only thing that I think that, and this goes for James Maddison as well, because obviously there's links with him moving to Tottenham, blah, 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 all the rest of it. The only reason I think these players don't come to Newcastle is, you made a really good point, Chris, and you talked about, the fact that where we're going to be in 2 or 3 years' time. It's almost like if you go to an Arsenal, if you go to a Man United or a Chelsea or whoever, is that because they're the top 6, they're almost guaranteed to be in around it every year. And this is what these players want right now. Maddison's 26. Rice is 24, 25 years old. Like, they want now the next step to be guaranteed playing. Great age. But they want to be guaranteed to be playing at the top table on a regular basis. Their only question mark with Newcastle, the fans, the club, the stadium, the direction, the project, everything, you've literally just ticked. You've just done a big tick on every one of those things that you've just said, Chris. The only thing is the guarantee. Because we're not quite, but we get Champions League, great. Teams in the past have got Champions League, but have not sustained it. That would be probably their only question mark in their mind, as if to say, are they going to be there this time next year? Are they going to do what they did this time next year? Are they going to be at the table again? Are they going to be Champions League again? If they could guarantee that we would be sitting 4th or 3rd or even better next year, they would sign just like that, because of exactly what you just said, Chris, is that they can actually not just be a bit part, like a Calvin Phillips on the bench, Phil Foden, play here and there, play 3 weeks, miss 6 weeks, play 3 weeks, miss 6 weeks. They can actually play week in, week out, be a focal point of it. And actually, whatever success that team has, they are crucial and constant to that success. The only reason that they wouldn't choose us is because they don't know that we're guaranteed to get it every year yet. We, in our minds, and what we've seen at the club, all four of us on the panel, Mark would agree, and everyone else would agree in this chat right now, that we know we're going places. We know we're going to be there every year, but they need to know that we're going to be there. We don't want to be West Ham that have finished 6th and 7th and are now in a relegation battle. We don't believe we're ever going to be that team again, but in their minds, they're thinking, could they? You look at Leicester, win the league, Champions League football, then Europa League, then Conference League, now second from bottom. They're thinking, could they be that team? And I don't know. I don't know whether that might be the stopping point. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree or whatever.
Do you think though? I mean, I totally take your point, P, and I agree with what you're saying. But do you not think that, you know, because of the ownership that's come in, we're not a Leicester, and we're not an Everton, or we're not a team that's flirted with the top 4 and then fell off. You know, a bit like Dan was talking about it, wasn't he? Dan Lawless in terms of West Ham. You know, they were in and around the top 4 European places last year, but you look, don't you? And we're backed pretty heavily. Like if we fell off a cliff now and we finished 5th or 6th, you could guarantee that next year the owners are going to be going, well, bloody hell, we finished above expectations. We thought 8th, 7th, maybe scrape into Europe. But you can guarantee that no matter what plan there is for the summer, we're going to pump money and it's just going to turn into this big, I don't know, like we could be one of the big powerhouses in European football within the next 5 years. And I firmly believe that.
I think, Chris, I think anyone based in the Premier League in England, that they will know, like the likes of Declan Rice will know that Newcastle are going places. They'll see the owners, how well they're doing, and everything else that's coming as well, the sponsorship deals, and so on and so forth, the expansion of the stadium, and we are a different beast now, anyone in England will know that. Now it's selling. You might have to do a bit more convincing to a foreign player, let's say that hasn't. It's not as engrossed in it, but the likes of Declan Rice can see where the only where we're going is up. So
it's interesting what you back up there, Daz, because there was a rumor going around that Eddie Howe has earmarked 4 Premier League players for the summer window, so that sort of falls into the ilk of what you're saying, because England players, or either English-based players or foreign players who play in England at the moment, they know what the Premier League is about, and also what Newcastle are now as a project. You still might have the hard sell of people like Moussa Diaby. They might have the people. PSG, I think you've got an option potentially to take him back. Do you know what I mean? So, we could be getting linked with them all day long, but then it's a non-starter because PSG's come in and go, that's it, done it, gone. Not even an option.
It's not even an option. It's his boiled club.
Yeah.
And that's what people forget is like, we're going, let's get him in. Like, we've got the project, we've got this. But he was born and bred on PSG. Like, when they come calling, he's going. It's as simple as that. And this is why. And Moussa Diaby, it's a great point that you've made, Richie. Like he is the guy that we would need to move us forward in those inside forward positions. But we're going to have to act fast. We're going to have to. We can't negotiate with Leverkusen. We have to say, how much do you want? 60 million. There you go. Let's get the player on a plane. Let's get him up to Newcastle now. Let's sign the deal. Because if we dilly and dally, which I don't think we are, we're not that type of team anymore. But if we did, and PSG get wind of it, he's going to go. He's going to go there.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. But I think you've made a good point, because you talked about the English-based players. Most of these foreign players have only seen Newcastle over the last 15 years under Mike Ashley.
And then Goal, the movie.
Bottom, no. A lot of these players now haven't. It's a lot of the older generation that have finished watching, that have finished their playing careers, watch the movie. But like they look at Newcastle now and they see us as a relegation team, a team that are kind of going, that have been struggling all over the place. Bottom half of the table every season. Great atmosphere, great fans, but not quite there. They haven't seen the Newcastle that we've seen and we've experienced under Sir Bobby Robson, under Kevin Keegan. They have to watch it on videos or DVDs.
It's different from the Kabay days when we qualified for the Europa League as well. because that was a one-season wonder, wasn't it? Really, it wasn't one where this happened under the Kenny Dalglish era when he came in after Kevin Keegan. I always use the analogy about a Formula One racing car. Obviously, the regulations have changed now. That's a different topic. But you used to always have that thing where it's like, if you've got a Formula One winning car that wins your championship year and you're in, you fine tune it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You don't dismantle it and start again, which which that did under Kenny Dalglish. It's a bit like what Dan Ashworth says now. It's when you replace a manager, obviously I don't think Eddie Howe's going anywhere soon, but you bring in a manager that suits what Newcastle have then set up from the academy up how they want to play football. Yeah. You're not going to be just bringing someone because that's Jose Mourinho's free. Let's just bring him in. You're gonna bring like what Brighton did with De Zerbi. Not a lot of people had heard of him, but he's pulling up trees down at Brighton, and that's the sort of people like if touch wood, Eddie Howe stays for a while. But if he was to go, you want someone of that ilk to come in to replace him. It doesn't need to be the name; it's the person that fits the style of the player that you're going to put going forward. So we're not like that when we qualify under Pardew. Ashley didn't then turn and go, oh, look, we've got a position here where, look, let's kick on. I'll put a bit of money in. I'll speculate to accumulate, which, to be fair, a lot of businessmen obviously should be aware of, which I never understood under Mike Ashley because he's a good businessman, but he never understood that in football terms, if you speculate, you spend some money, you'd accumulate. And he always thought, well, if I run a tight ship, it'll run itself, and that's it. You know what I mean? We could have kicked on then. That was the one thing that then, we got a relegation, got ourselves up to Europa League football, then we worked way back down to a relegation again, and then we got back in the Premier League, but then we just did nothing. You only ever seemed to spend money when we got relegated, which was always the wrong time to spend the money. Yeah. You never, made us stay there and build on what you had when you got up, and that was the telling point for me when we didn't kick on, when we went under like Demba Ba and Cisse and Cabaye and stuff like that. You got that thing and you just went, we've got a team that I can make this work. I don't have to spend any money. We've got this fantastic team here. Not thinking that people obviously Lloyd Remy came in. Oh, no, he went off somewhere else. And then Cabaye and Arthur obviously went. And then you had Debussy who went as well. And then the team just got dismantled. And you brought like people here in the world, just bit part players who couldn't lace at the people's boots that they just left. That was always the problem with that. Whereas now, even for a foreigner-based thing, we're in a different position now. We are here where the project is literally just starting. But, as people have been saying in the chat, Newcastle now are like what could be classed as a megalodon. We could be as big as we want to be, technically going forward. Do you know what I mean? And the amount of money, we can do it sensibly. But the good thing is about FFP is that amortization thing. If we were to go and spend 250 million this window, I know that could be a realistic figure. It could be pie in the sky figure. No one knows yet because we don't know where we're going to be standing in the space in 8 weeks' time, at the end of May. But that we could spend that, but we could do what Chelsea have done and like do a Mudryk deal where it's over 7-8 years. And if you've got Declan Rice on an 8-year contract at 80 million, you're only having to cover 8 million of that each year.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the length of the contract. If you're buying someone like a Bellingham for 120 million, but you're doing over a 4-year contract, you're carrying 30 million per year.
Yeah.
It's all about how it's all built up together and stuff like that. So, sorry, Daz.
A megalodon is a shark, yeah?
It is.
Yes. The Meg. Yeah, just go watch the film, The Meg. That'll explain everything.
And we are exactly that. Guys, we are exactly that. But it goes back to my original point. It's whether these players that we're trying to get in believe that we're that and believe that we can back up. We all know we can back up what we did this season, and what we're going to do this season is secure Champions League football. In our minds, we all believe that that's going to happen, and we know that we can back that up and go again under Eddie Howe and with this group of players, with improved players. But it's whether these boys that are coming in that we want to entice believe that. Now, if we can get even one of those guys, if we can get a Declan Rice through the door, hell, we'll put it out there. If we were to entice a Jude Bellingham into the club, at what 20, 21 years old. If we can entice a player like that in, that sets the motion for everyone in England, but in Europe, that we're not messing around. That is then the big deal. That's the big deal that sets us apart from everybody else. It sets us apart from a West Ham, sets us apart from a Leicester, sets us apart from whoever has been challenging or looking like they could potentially disrupt that top six, because we've gone out there and we've backed it up by saying, you know what, we're here to stay. We're looking at getting the best players in, but it's whether we can convince those guys. If we go to those guys, we're going to be back next year, and we're going to be back next year because you're going to take us there along with the rest of these boys. That could potentially sell them the dream. And it's easier when you're doing that with English-based players for the reasons that you and Chris have just said, is that they know the country because they're playing it every week. They know the stadium because they're playing it every season. They know the fan base. They know everything about the club, and it makes sense. So it's easier to attract those type of players in. So I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm just saying that might be the kicker. That's why these players tend to, like a Calvin Phillips, we probably could have signed him in the summer, but he ends up going to Man City. Why? Because he knows there's a guarantee. Jack Grealish goes to Man City. Why? Because he knows there's a guarantee. He knows he can't win anything with Villa, but he goes to Man City because he knows I'll definitely win a league. I might even win a couple of cups. But if I win the Champions League, that puts me on a different stratosphere in terms of how people perceive me as a player. And he knows there's a guarantee. Calvin Phillips goes for the same reason. Might not play every week, but he won't give a fuck once he's got that medal around his waist or around his neck, sorry. And I'm talking wrestling right now.
I don't want to say WWE.
I'm talking the strap. But
look at what it did for his England career, Pete. Exactly. Calvin Phillips didn't play a minute of football for City, straight in the England team.
Exactly. He can't do anything wrong. Phil Foden barely kicks a ball, gets in every England squad, no problem whatsoever. You know, John Stones, the same. Can be injured for 6 months, comes back, plays 2 minutes in the England squad for a major competition. You go through all the other players, other teams. Luke Shaw, playing that well this season, could quite have even been overlooked for Dan Burn and one or two others last season because he was outperforming him. You know what I mean? But because he's a guarantee, because he plays at Man United, that's the difference. You know, will that start to be the difference for Newcastle?
This is why Champions League's so key. Yeah. Because, like you've said, Pete, if we go in the Champions League next season, it was weird. I was watching Champions League last night. I watched the Bayern game, Bayern City game. And I was thinking, bloody hell, this could be us next season. But if we go and play in that Champions League next season, and we do all right, say we get to the last 16 or the quarters, God forbid, other players around Europe then start going, oh, Newcastle want me. Oh, Newcastle win the Champions League. Then it all starts cottoning on.
Snowball effect, yeah.
Yeah, people start noticing and going, oh, bloody hell, you know, but they got the quarters this time and they've just signed him and they're going to buy him as well. I want to be a part of that. This is just the beginning of it. This is why
it's why everyone says we're ahead of the project. Realistically, project-wise, we know Europa League would probably suit us best as for the build purpose of going forward, because obviously you get your commercial stuff up, and then you can bring other players in that you possibly shouldn't be looking at. But we're in a position now where we can come third in the table the way things are at the moment. We can get Champions League, and the good thing is we've got the owners who'll turn around and say, look, we're in this position now. Let's go and do it. We can, make the money up elsewhere through the commercial stuff, because if we get in that Champions League, we'll turn around and say, oh, look, we can get more for our shirt sponsor because they're getting their better coverage on TV screens over, they're in the best competition in Europe. Well, is it the best club competition in the world? Probably. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's going to be beamed all the way around the world. And, with the way Saudi Arabia have got going with the Project 2030, and if Newcastle, which is meant to be going along the lines that they think they're going to get like a Saudi Airlines potentially as a shirt sponsor, Saudi will happily pay whatever the going rate is for the front shirt sponsor for the next 10 years. Do you know what I mean?
For the Champions League team. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree with what you're saying, Mitch, because not that anybody would prefer Europa League or Europa Conference. Not saying that. And we want Champions League, and you want to take as much as you can possibly get. But I do take your point that if we qualified for the Europa League and then made 2, 3, 4, 5 signings off the back of that, you'd probably find, and maybe I'm talking out of turn here, but you'd probably find we're one of the favourites for the Europa League. Whereas if we go into the Champions League, I think we're small fish in a big pond, because we haven't got that depth of squad. We're probably 2 or 3 seasons away from having a team that is going to be kind of up there in the Champions League levels. But if we were in the Europa League next season and we managed to sign a few players off the back of that, I think most people would be looking at it and think, yeah, Newcastle.
I think a lot of Newcastle a lot of Newcastle fans, if we got Champions League football, would be happy to finish third in the group, because at the end, you got to remember is our UEFA coefficient number now, we don't have one, because obviously it's been that long since we've qualified for Europe. So wherever we go in that group, we're going to be in the 4th seed in the group, each group. So obviously it depends on who you're going to get. If you can get third, obviously get first or second, fantastically. I mean, you go further the knockout route. But if you go third, you drop into the Europa League, which, as you're just saying, Chris, could our squad pretty much, go on and win the Europa League? Which then obviously, the prize for that is obviously a trophy, and you get a Champions League the following year. So
look who West Ham have got to play now to win is it the conference they're in? Look who they've got to beat to win the conference.
Ghent. Yeah, Ghent. Sorry, Ghent. The Ghent, and then I think that in the final after that, or in the semi-finals, they've got to play either Fiorentina or Nice. Like, they're the only teams that could potentially stop them from winning the Europa Conference. But you've got to remember, in their first season in the Europa League, they got to semi-finals. Yeah. I think it was it Freiburg or Frankfurt, one of the 2 teams?
Frankfurt.
Yeah, and when Rangers in the final as well. Rangers got to the final, didn't they?
Yeah, Rangers got to the final. So we put but the difference is that you get a guaranteed 50 million for playing in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. That's not talking about finances and gates. We'll get 2.5 million per home game just for playing in the Champions League. That's not included in the 50 million that you get. That sort of money is what Tottenham are desperate for. They're clawing for it right now because they need it. Liverpool can't sign a Jude Bellingham because they don't have that money, because they won't get the Champions League money. This is the difference. This is why these teams, Chelsea, will struggle. They'll spend a shitload of money, but they won't be able to go as hard this summer as what they could have, because they don't have that sort of money. But for me, Champions League's the way to go, because of the money that you generate off the back of it. And let's not forget, Leicester's first season in the Champions League, they're going to end up getting to the quarterfinals. Why? It's because they were the untapped resource. They were the new team that nobody knew how to play against in Europe. We go in there and we get through into the knockout phases. Nobody's seen what St. James is like on our Champions League night. Nobody's seen war flags in Europe before. Nobody knows what Newcastle's like. And that can be an intimidating place, a massively intimidating place. You throw Europe on top of it, you've got a monster there. And we can never, ever discard what the fan base and the 12th man allows us to do on a Champions League night or a European night. It cannot be cannot be questioned.
And just to add as well, sorry, Daz, dead quick, just to add to that, Pete, we've not got there, and some people may find this disrespectful, but we've not got there through I would say our ability or our technical ability, or the fact that we outplay teams. We've not got there through that. We've got there through effort and work rate, and busting a gut and giving 110% over 93, 94 minutes every single game. And then so if you get like a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or whatever, if you went up against them head to head and you tried to technically beat them, we'd probably really struggle. But you look at our press, you look at how we perform and how we outrun every team that we play. They won't be used to coming up against teams like that.
You're forgetting this as well.
Yeah.
The dark
Exactly.
arts.
Yeah, the dark arts.
Dark
Before we move on and we get too carried away, remember we are small fish in a big pond, and I'm not talking about Newcastle. I'm talking about Loaded, because make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe. If you any show you see us on, hit that like button. It'll help us move us towards Europe ourselves and towards Champions League and all the bigger and better things. So yeah, just a reminder to do that, and it's greatly helped us out. And Chris, I have a question for you. What is that green thing beside you?
I knew you were going to ask this. So for Christmas, someone wanted these peas in a pod. So she's got this pod, and this is one of the peas. I should keep that there instead of my This will be me when we get 3 points at Villa Park.
I like it.
1 hour 44. Clip it. We know where it's at.
Just put that ones on. You're sorted. Cool. Where are we going next? So is there a few more questions as we're getting to the 1 hour 45 minute mark for the show?
I just wanted to ask. We obviously spoke a hell of a lot about Rice, and then it went into Europe and Champions League football, which is a great discussion, by the way. I really enjoyed it, and it's great to get people's opinions on this, including the chat.
Red card.
Who?
For who?
Penn Chilwell. He's just pulled. I think he pulled Rodrigo down. He looked like he was last man. He's just pulled Rodrigo down, straight red. 58 minutes gone, and Real Madrid have got a dangerous free kick on the edge of the box. Let me just see. Yeah, Rodrigo's gone. Cucurella's chasing him. Ben Chilwell comes over, pulls his arm. He just pulls his arm. Yeah, it's a straight red. So Chelsea now down to 10 men.
I shouldn't feel bad about this, because we do want the English teams to do well, because with the coefficient, there is an opportunity for England in the next 2 years to have 5 teams that qualify for the Champions League. And so it could be the top 5 that qualify for the Champions League. So we do want the English team to do well, but I'd be more than happy for Man City to win the Champions League that allows that for us, that allows us to get into the Champions League on a more regular basis, because we are very close. There is talks about that coefficient allowing a 5th team into the Champions League. It has been discussed over the last 6 months or so. But I think over the next 2 years, I think if English teams are doing well across the board, it will allow. So and equally, that will mean top 8 could get European football, genuinely every single season. So but fuck Chelsea tonight. Going on to Chris. I'll come to you with this one because it's coming from your neck of the woods. Ollie from the NUFC blog has wrote a piece today along with Sasha, saying that there's interest in Amadou Onana. And he actually says, and the comment is slightly in the way, Daryl knew we were going to discuss this, so he was straight in with a comment. He actually says that Onana says that he loves the Newcastle project as Newcastle plot a move for powerhouse. So if Rice doesn't come about, would you take Onana as potentially that number 6?
Do you know what? I'll have to rewind this back for our Cal. Our Callum absolutely adores Onana. He thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. Keeps telling me how he's one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. Just absolutely loves him. And obviously, I'll be going to Goodison Park in the next couple of weeks, so I look forward to watching him more closely. But no, do you know my only problem with him is, for me, what I've seen of him, he actually his shirt number is number 8. He actually plays as a number 8. So I don't know whether he would be that number 6 that we'd need. I don't think he's that sitting midfielder. I think he's a box to box, gets up and down. He looks big.
He's more like our Joe Linton comparison, isn't he? Type thing.
Yeah, Abazagrievich. Yeah, that's a really good shout. Yeah, he's a big, strong lad. Gets about the pitch well. He's had a lot of interest in him. He's had a good first season. And no wonder he loves the project. Who doesn't love the project? That's what I'd be asking.
Tell you one thing about him, Chris. He's only 21.
Great age.
Yeah, I mean, he ticks a lot of boxes. I just don't know whether he's that number 6 that we'd need. And also the big thing for me as well is I'm pretty sure Everton paid about 35 million for him. Now, I would imagine they're going to want 50 plus for him. And if you offered me Declan Rice for 80 or him for 60, I'd be picking Declan Rice every day. But I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to it. And if Eddie Howe wants him, great. Like whenever I've seen him, he looks pretty decent. But I don't think he's that number 6 we need.
The song is already sorted for him anyway. I see it from the chat.
Oh yeah,
it was played the day he walked into the training ground by one of the teammates.
They've developed it now. It's Onana, Ghana gay. That's what they all sing. Yeah, Callum sings it regularly to me. So yeah, it's that play on there. It's that play on that Rihanna song. But yeah, they all love him. They all think he's brilliant. But I don't know. For that price, I'm not sure.
Interesting. Right. There are just a quick fire responses on this one. This name has come about again after some links and a number of shows that we put together with a certain player, and it's this man, Joao Pedro.
Yes.
Links have come about and actually saying that Newcastle would look to pay around 30 million euros to get their man, as Fabrizio Romano said he was going to be, but it never materialized. Boys, would you take Joao Pedro in the summer? Yes or no? Quick reasons why.
Yes for me. I think he's a good player. I've kind of continued to watch him. I know he had a bit of an injury for a while. There was talk recently that he was traveled over to Milan. Milan were looking at him as well. I read somewhere, but if Eddie Howe still likes him and wants him as an option, I think he'd be a good squad player first. And he has to be a great age.
Great age, Richie.
It's that conversation we had at the start of the season. Does it strengthen the squad? Yes. Then that's a no-brainer. He's a fantastic player. It gives us something different to what we've got up front at the moment. Another different option. We're going to be fighting on 4 competition fronts next year, so we need to have quality on the bench and stuff like that. So for me, that's a no-brainer.
Chris?
Yeah. 1,000,000%. I've been really impressed with him. I've been following him a little bit the past few weeks because I've noticed that he's been doing quite well for Watford. You remember, Pete, when we had the Watford lads on, Do Not Scratch Your Eyes, and they were waxing with lyrical over him, saying how brilliant he was. And to be fair, that moves fell through for him, which I'm sure was a big disappointment to him. But look how he's reacted. He's got his head down. And he's doing his best for Watford. You know, he could have just disappeared off the face of the earth. Now, whenever you talk about Watford, Ismail Assar barely gets a mention. It's all Joao Pedro. As Daz has already said, great age, £30 million. It's not a ridiculous sum of money, is it? And you know,
Chris, was he made Watford captain this year as well?
Yeah, he's captain. He's captain.
And they look like they're not getting promoted either.
No.
They're not in the playoff positions. I think
that's where they'll get at best. Playoffs at best.
Yeah.
And and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't he like a winger come striker? So he's someone who plays out wide, but he drifts in.
Yeah.
I think he'd be perfect. I'm just quickly checking now.
He scored goals coming off the left. He scored goals coming off the right. He scored goals coming in the centre. He can play all those positions. And look, we waxed lyrical about him, and so like you said, Do Not Scratch Your Eyes talked about him really positively as well because he did have moments. He didn't have the numbers, and this is where a lot of Newcastle fans, particularly some in the chat at the time, were questioning the move because he didn't quite have the numbers that I suppose we were looking for. Yeah. Because you look at his numbers and they were quite low in the Premier League, but you know, he's put decent numbers together in the Championship. Maybe not what you would expect him to have in the Championship. You know, when you look at some of the other players that have kind of eclipsed him at the top of the Championship this season, but you can't deny the ability and everything
for 21.
Have said from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes, you can see in his ability. But it's a case of, you know, my question to you just before we move on is 30 million justified for a player that's in the Championship and not hitting those numbers that maybe we're looking for, particularly if we're playing Champions League football?
Yeah, well, there's one thing there with Watford that everyone knows: they change their manager every 6 weeks. So how can he get any kind of consistency playing for them? Yeah, again.
Yeah, apparently Wilder's going to be sacked anytime now, and he's only been employed 36 days. Apparently they're going to sack him, and they're getting an Italian manager to come in and replace him. So that's
5 weeks. Jesus,
it's crazy.
You'd be looking at the end of the season, there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I see what you mean, Pete. I think you'd be buying his potential, though. I think.
Yeah.
I take your point. You know, he's only done it in the Championship, not so great at Premier League level. But the fact that I think someone in the chat then said he's just turned 22, you know, it's all looking good. And again, going back to that leadership point, you know, he's been made captain, and he's really standing up and really, you know, performing well for Watford. And Watford are 6 points off the playoffs. There's only 5-6 games to go, so they're probably not going to make it. But I'd certainly go for someone like Joao Pedro over.
Great age.
Over there.
Yeah, he's 20. He is 21. His birthday is 26th September. So he's a while to go yet before he hits 22.
All right.
Yeah. I sent him a birthday card.
You know what? The interesting thing about Pedro is, though, Pete, is, you know, obviously we had a deal agreed with Watford last year. Then obviously he went on to sign a new contract with Watford. It wouldn't surprise me that Joao Pedro said, I'll not sign a contract unless, if Newcastle to come back in with me in the next 12 months, it goes exactly for what the deal was agreed last year. If it's not Newcastle, then it's a minimum of whatever to somebody else. I think that's the only way he would have signed that new deal last year.
Yeah, there'll be a clause in there. There's got to be. Got to be.
See that is message in the private.
Yeah, what I said was, I take my age thing seriously. Great age.
Hey, if they're going to get rid of Soccer AM, let's put it let's keep the good times rolling. Right, boys. I know there's some great questions in the chat. We're going to whip through one or two.
Do you want us to go through them now for you, Pete? Do you?
Oh no! Just before that, I want to throw some players out. These are some free transfer players I'm going to throw to you, and I just want a question of: would you take this player? Okay, so Daz, I'm going to come to you first. Hold on, what have I done here? I've just moved him by accident, so I apologize. Marcus Thuram, would you take him? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent, Marcus Thuram. Richie, interesting one. Rabiot.
No.
Would you take him? Yes or no?
Nope.
Any reason why?
Apparently, he's a bit of a prima donna, and his agent's his mother, who's even worse.
Right, don't sugarcoat it. Apparently, he's a prick. Just say.
Yeah, actually, he's a prima donna. But if you want to call him a prick, you can call him a prick.
Yeah, I'm going to say exactly that because he's apparently a prick. But yeah, absolutely spot on. Chris, another one for you. Yuri Tillemans, yes or no?
Oh,
I thought this was a quick section.
Sorry. Do you know what? I'm going to maybe surprise a few people here. I'm going to say no.
Okay. Any reason why?
I don't think he's got the legs for an Eddie Howe midfield. That's my only concern about him. I don't know if he's got the pace and penetration. I worry that he's not dynamic enough. That's why we're looking at the likes of Scott McTominay, because he's just got a massive engine on him. And I don't know whether Yuri Tillemans is that type of player. That's my short response to that. And his wages would be silly.
Okay, yeah, spot on. No problem at all. Right, another one. Daz, I'll come back to you. Roberto Firmino.
Not a great age, 31. Look, he's a good player, yeah. I don't know. Look, he's not getting good game time at Liverpool. He would be a squad player. No, I'm going to say no because his wages and it'll impact someone else as well. And what else we could do? So I'm going to say no. He's not what I'd like to see coming to Newcastle.
Champions League experience? No.
No. I know I'm. It'll split people's opinions. This one, but I'm going to say no. For me, if I was manager of Newcastle, I wouldn't bring him in. I'd go for someone younger.
I don't think it has. You got a firm for me no.
Please.
From Kevin as well. Same for Craig Lee. So no, I don't think you're in the wrong market there. Richie, I'll come back to you, and I will throw you Alex Grimaldo, left back from Benfica.
It's a no-brainer. That complete yes.
Any reasons why?
Quality. Champions League experience, as you said again.
Yep.
He's the type of attacking fullback that you'd want on that other side to Trippier. No brainer.
Okay, no, spot on. Chris, throw you a left field, literally. Wilfred Zaha.
No, because of age, and I think he's a bit of a dick.
Love it.
Boys, 2-0.
Oh,
2-0. Asensio.
Happy days, Asensio. The Barcelona, the newly signed Barcelona player, Asensio. Apparently,
What, has he joined Barca?
Apparently, he's agreed a deal to join Barca on a free transfer in the summer.
Who they're letting go? Who they're letting go to so they can get him in?
Yeah. Exactly. Maybe we'll benefit from that. Frank Cassie, get Frank Cassie coming to Newcastle. Why not?
Rafinha.
Yeah, you're always
to be fair, there's Rafinha. Why not both?
Why not?
Experience.
Bring them both in.
How old are they? How old's Rafinha?
Great ages.
25.
26,
Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
Frank Cassie, I think the same age. Great age.
20s, yeah.
I'm going to check this one.
Right,
Rafinha is 26. Kessie.
Okay, last couple, really quickly for you boys.
26.
Gundogan from Man City on a free transfer. Would you take? He's 32, I think.
He's 32, not a great age. Look, he always pops up and scores for Man City, but no, I wouldn't take him. I think wages and stuff again. He's a decent player. Don't get me wrong. 32 though, no, move on. Someone we can build around. But I put him in the Firmino bracket.
Okay. Any of you boys, Chris, Rich?
I would take Gundogan over Firmino.
Yes.
Okay.
Agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Gundogan's. I think you've got to make an exception for someone like him purely because of all that experience he's got, and technically he is brilliant. Not
Ball leadership as well.
But yeah,
Man City captain as well.
Yeah. Imagine him in the middle with Bruno. Oof.
Goal
He
scorer.
does like a bit of Football Manager. He's in that video for the Football Manager.
He loves the Football Manager.
Yeah, so he could persuade me. Yeah. Go on, move on.
Last one.
Tough one.
Ivan Ndika, left centre back from Frankfurt. Would you take him? I think he's 23 at this point.
23. Yeah, 23.
Yeah, 23. Again, I'll open it up to you boys. Would you take him?
Did you say was it Evan Ndika? Was it Evan Ndika? Did you say?
Yeah, that's right.
I know. We talked about him last summer. Obviously, as a potential, it might be even been 18 months ago during the first lot of fully loaded transfer shows, and it was. We looked at him, and I know that Sean Casey, this was one of the name at Newcastle, were monitoring. I would say yes. However, I don't think a left centre back is a priority, and that's the only reason why I don't think Newcastle would be going. I think the right centre back's a much bigger priority because behind Botman you've got Burn in there.
Yeah.
If I was to say to you, he can play right side centre back though, would that change things?
Yeah. But no, I know he's predominantly a left centre back. Do you know what I mean? But it's
he's left-footed.
Yeah.
I think because he's on a free as well, that probably makes a difference, doesn't it? Because I can't see him wanting 200 grand a week. So if you brought him on free and say you got him on 80, 90, 100 grand a week, he improves squad depth, doesn't he?
We get him on a free from Germany, and he's only 23. No brainer, really.
New song there, Daz.
There we go.
That was a free transfer round. Done.
Yeah.
This isn't a quiz, is it?
What's that?
This isn't a quiz.
An informal quiz.
Yeah, Johnny okay.
If I don't see a quiz again, I'll be more than happy. Don't worry about that. I'm scared about Christmas. I'm scared about being asked about Rudolph and all the reindeers. I still have no idea.
Mistletoe, yeah, that was it, wasn't it?
Rich, me and you will have to combine for the Christmas quiz, mate.
I don't think Daz wants to be anywhere near it, mate.
No, I'll be on holidays. That time.
What questions have we got? I think we've got a few questions.
It's all, do you know what, lad? It's more light-hearted stuff that's in here. The first one I wanted to go to first was a good one from PDK. He says, with most of the big six teams having £100 million player in their squad, how long will it be before we do, and who do you think it could be?
I don't think we'll have one this summer. In potentially the following summer, but and I have no idea who it could be.
Rice will be the nearest to it, I think.
We already have one in Bruno Guimaraes.
We do.
Yeah.
We didn't pay that, but we do. And Sven Botman.
Yeah, both of them. I wouldn't sell either player. Yeah. I would think Isak is probably around. Maybe I'm doing him a disservice here. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'd put Isak around the money that Liverpool paid for Darwin Núñez. I would put him around that sort of figure right now. But I would say Sven Botman, with his great age, potential, and then what he's done this season, and Bruno Guimaraes, I put them both. I wouldn't sell either, but I would say if you were going to have to sell them, you're not selling for less than 100 million.
No,
you're not.
What we're going to have to do a show, and just the title will be "Great Age," and just like bring up.
Age.
There we go.
You're onto a winner. Let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
Do you know what I think? The only one that's potentially out there who would be there or thereabouts that money. I don't know whether it would break the 100 million mark though. That we could seriously possibly be interesting, because I don't think Rice goes for it that much. I think you're probably looking anywhere between 70 and 80 realistically for him. I don't think we get Bellingham, even though I think he'd be fantastic for the project. I just don't think. I think it's beyond us this year. You're probably looking the season after. Then obviously you've got to look at where obviously where everyone else in the Premier League and Liverpool are for that one. Victor Osimhen is a potential, and we know what Napoli are like. They can be a bit of a bugger when playing hardball. So that is a possibility. But for him though, I think he might get him just under 100 million. But the other question is though, that, the feedback that we keep getting off Dan Ashworth and stuff, it wouldn't surprise me if we never spend 100 million.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Until we spend it on KK from Napoli. Now that you mentioned Napoli.
Who would you boys rather? Who would you rather spend 100 million on? Victor Osimhen or Kvaratskhelia? Or Kvaratskhelia is the right pronunciation.
Tough one.
Who would you rather spend your money on? If you had 100 million to spend, you could guarantee that you could buy one of them. Osimhen or Kvaratskhelia.
KK.
Who would you sign?
KK.
Who doesn't go KK?
KK.
KK.
I think he brings. I think we've got our Osimhen in Isak.
Okay.
Yeah. Me too.
Richie?
It's an interesting one. My only concern about KK at the moment is he's been at Napoli for less than a season. Osimhen's done it for a bit longer, and you're definitely getting that quality over a substantial period of time. He's shown it. He showed it from when he was at Marseille before he went to Napoli. My concern with KK is if Osimhen goes like there's rumours he's going to be, and yes, the guy Spalletti's done a fantastic job at Napoli with what he's put together as that squad, because apart from those two, there's not many out-and-out fantastic world-class players in that squad. is this going to be a one-season wonder for that squad? And is KK going to be in that mould as well with not having... He hasn't looked the same with Osimhen being out the last few weeks with a thigh injury. Yeah. So is he going to be like that next season? Obviously, if he came to Newcastle, though, he's going to have a lot of quality around him. So it's an interesting... That's the only doubt I would have on KK.
They're losing at the moment against AC.
Down 10 men as well.
In the Champions League. Yeah.
Napoli.
And Guisia, who was at Fulham.
He looked a great player, him. Really good player when he was at Fulham.
Yeah. Who would you take, Pete?
I would have loved him. For me, I don't believe if we had an option to sign him, I don't believe we could turn down signing Victor Osimhen. I just think he's a generational talent. I think he is, and I genuinely believe that a lot of big clubs don't realise how good he is. I think he's phenomenal.
Napoli aren't the same team without him.
No, they're the reason why he is where they are right now, and the fact that he's not playing and he hasn't been it tells you everything you need to know. Napoli will go back to being what they were before, even with KK in the team when Osimhen moves on. And I just.
The interesting thing is about it, right? They've played AC Milan twice in the last couple of weeks, right? And AC Milan have been bog standard average this year. And both times, well, they're beating them now and they're beating them the other week, right? Bear in mind how much Napoli have blitzed Serie A this year. I think they're about, was it 18 points clear they are or something now? But both games with AC Milan, Osimhen hasn't played and Napoli have been bang average.
Victor, like I say, Victor Osimhen. Like, for example, Man United have been linked with Victor Osimhen. They're prioritising Kane, blah, 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 blah. I get it, because he's an English player, he's an England captain. But Victor Osimhen is 23 years old. It's superb age for what he's doing, because he could literally light up the stage. Ideally, I'd want both of them. I want both of them, because together they would just ruin whatever league they were in. But for me, Victor Osimhen is a generational talent, and I just think he's a guy that if you have a chance to sign, you don't take it. You don't miss out. You don't miss out on him. So I'm going with him slightly, but I get why KK and Daz. I know why you love him, because honestly, he's a superb player.
Yeah, no, he only caught my attention. Yeah, he only caught my attention when I started looking at Mudryk, and then I was looking for alternatives to Mudryk, and that's where I came across him and took it from there. Then he got more and more popular after that. But yeah, where are we going next? Are we going for another question or two?
Just a couple of light-hearted ones, and it's mainly around this that we talked about earlier on. If you know, we had a fantastic donation of Ian earlier on. We really appreciate that. I think it was £100. I think was the amount of Ian McKenna where he said it's in the pod. As Pete mentioned earlier on, we are getting together for a charity football game for Gateshead Food Bank the weekend. We're all up here, and as he said, times are hard, and unfortunately, there's people in worse situations than what we're all in at the moment as well. And having to use food banks just to feed their families and stuff like that. So, if you're able to spare, £1, 50 pence even, it all adds up at the end of the day. Just do anything that, as little as you can, just give us a help out. I appreciate we're doing this for your benefit. It's a good entertainment. You'll probably have a fantastic laugh if we stream it out, or you get to go and watch it in person. You might be surprised. And it goes on to one of the next questions as well. Which is people want to know, don't know why, they want to know, did we ever play football ourselves? What positions we played ourselves as well? So, come on, have a good laugh. Pete, we'll start with you on that one, because this is obviously all comes into the charity football match.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I was very, very lucky to play and be scouted for Sheffield United when I was a teenager. Well, I say teenager, I was 10 when I was picked up from them. I was there until 15. Not boring you with the story, but it was only due to family circumstances why I wasn't offered a longer contract, really. Traveling to Sheffield every week. My mum just simply couldn't afford it. We used to travel every week to go up there, and petrol and all the rest of it, finances, wasn't possible. So I had to stop playing for them, which was something a little bit of a regret, but it was a family circumstance that I couldn't control. But I loved my time there, loved it. Great club. Got to play on Bramwell Lane and various other grounds and places against some fantastic teams like some Man United, Chelsea, West Ham, you name it. Was very lucky. Played semi-pro for a little bit until my back messed up, stress fracture, and then just played local football and then managing a little bit like what Richie does. Richie coaches in Newcastle. I did a little bit of coaching, Sunday League football for a little bit, and then retired because I put all my time into these boys in Loaded, which is something that I'm really passionate about. So that's me.
And what position did you play, Pete?
I just love to score goals, man. I just love to score goals. always a striker. But however, whenever I used to play six-a-side, I used to play at the back. I always used to play at the back. I don't know why. Maybe because you just get on the ball more. You're able to bring the ball out of defence more. But which is why I said to you boys in the chat the other day, I said, I'll play anywhere. It don't matter.
I'm just glad Daz isn't picking the team with his squad suggestions. Yes, or was it Mark that said we were playing 1-0-5?
You were the one in Galway, yeah.
Yeah, everyone wanted to play up front. Okay, so I follow Pete. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, on the playground is where I spent most of my days. Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, and shooting. Right. So for me, I never played for any team. It's like in Ireland, I was played Gaelic football was what I played most growing up. But yeah, sure. As I mentioned, the playground, yeah, it was school. It was like striker, but yeah, later years I got playing the touch of right back, but not really anything to write home about. That's me,
Chris.
So like I've always played football with my mates and stuff. Like always been passionate about football. So like when I started out in school, I started as a right winger because I was quite quick. Then gradually I ended up going striker because I didn't quite have the legs, but I still had a good shot on me and all that. So I played up front. Then I realised that pace had gone as well, and then I started playing central midfield because I liked, as Pete said, I like getting on the ball, and I didn't quite have that speed anymore. So I played central midfield. But yeah, for years 9 and 10, I captained the school football team, which I was really proud about. Played Sunday League football up until I was about 17, 18. And then unfortunately, a combination of girls, booze, just took over. And then don't get me wrong, I always play 5-a-side, 6-a-side with my mates, always still play. Although I haven't played this year because I've damaged my Achilles, which is really gutting. But yeah, I still play football 5-a-side with my mates on like local 5-a-side pitches, which is great. So yeah, I've always played football, absolutely love it. Wish I was better at it because I would have loved to have played professionally. But yeah, so yeah, always play footy, but yeah, really liked it.
So Revel Morrison, it's like the same kind of story.
Mate, yeah, do you know what? Yeah, just maybe not as naturally talented. Do you know what? I probably downplayed myself a bit. As I say, I was captain of the footy team. I was pretty decent, but I just didn't. I don't know. I was too distracted by too many things. You know what I mean? Like it was the girls and the booze and everything, and that was it. Then I was just like.
I feel you
Footy took a back step, you know what I mean?
I feel you pain. I stopped playing for 3 years because I was out every week.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're just out, aren't you? And I know some lads that used to, be up on a Sunday morning or going for runs on the beach. I'm not doing that. I'm going out again. I'm meeting the lads for the 1 o'clock kickoff in the pub.
If I was out on the beach, it was because that was the after party.
Yeah. On a mound somewhere. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Nah. Yeah, I took the wrong career choice really, but yeah.
Right, me, it was a dog here. I used to play a decent. I played county level when I was younger. Also was at Newcastle School of Excellence until I was age 12. Unfortunately, I had a really bad knee injury when I was 12-year-old, and that was any chances of becoming professional out the window. I used to play as a right winger growing up. Fast, speedy, obviously not really believe that looking at us now, but never mind. But then the interesting thing was stuff when I actually started going to the county trials, which obviously that's where you get picked up by the schools of excellence, what our academies now. For some reason, my teacher actually put down that I was a right back rather than a right winger. So I actually got playing for the county as a right back for the first ever time I actually played there, which was interesting. And after that, it never really. I always played on the right hand side. I played Sunday League football and stuff like Pete. My wife got involved. Obviously, got together with her. I was 23, and that was it. I did cope. I did cope with the out Thursday, out Friday, out Saturday. Got up Sunday morning, played Sunday football, back on it at lunchtime on a Sunday, and out all day Sunday. But then obviously, you settle down, family, takes precedent. You can't do that anymore. I play football now. Just for people who know, I run a weight loss football league on a Monday night over at Washington Hub. Anyone's ever interested in joining, hit us give us a DM. It's all about getting people active again who've never done sport again and stuff like that. Unfortunately, I started playing defence because nobody ever would. I didn't have the pace to be a forward anymore like that I used to. But I was always told I was able to read the game really well, and I like having the game in front of us and stuff like that. Unfortunately, my knee got worse again, so I had to pack it, and I now play in goal, which it's not too bad when you're 5'8" and you're stuck between a little goal. But it'll be interesting when I'm in a slightly bigger goal for the charity game. But I'm not a bad keeper. I've been told I'm not a bad keeper. One lad who goes to we know him actually, Chris from Concert. Was there one week and he did call me Dickie Pope. So I don't know.
There you go.
Hey, we need a good keeper, mate. Yeah, do you know what Pete was saying and what you said as well, Mitch? It does resonate a little bit. Like, I think as you get a bit older, you like to just sit back a touch, don't you, and just kind of like read the game and like. You haven't got that electric pace. Like when we play with the five-a-side, I play with lads who are like 20, 21, 22. And like they just zip everywhere, but like some of them aren't the best, but the pace gets them through it. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just quick. But if you can't read the game, or like if you're running down blind alleys, it's pointless, isn't it? But you'd rather just sit back and kind of take it all in and be like, right, I'm going to position myself here and I'll pass it out there and whatever. I think it'd be a really good game. I'm looking forward to it.
A lot of Jan Mulby's.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of Jan Mulby's. We're going to be playing like 4-1 or something, aren't we?
It's all right, lads. We all know who the legs are in our squad, so that will be. We can't like put that out there yet, but we all know who the legs are in our squad.
Martin, is it? Martin. Jimmy's all a lot of confidence in us, and thanks, Jimmy.
It's funny that because Jimmy actually gave us our last question right before we round up, and it's how sore do you think we're going to be after the game?
Mate, I'm going to be sore before it even starts. Say me Achilles, I haven't played since November, and it's still sore now, but I'm sure I'll get through it. I'm sure.
Yeah, I can guarantee I'll be sore because I tell you what, when I go and goal, I don't have to throw myself about. I'm like you, Chris. I'm just so competitive.
You're going to get a lot of practice, Richie. You're going to get a lot of practice.
Mate, even if I'm in agony, I'll still want to play. Even if I go off injured, I'll be like, I want to go back on. I want to go back on. You just like, it's just that competitive. You can't. I don't know.
Yeah. Daz, I presume you'll just be knackered after 2 minutes.
Probably, yeah. I used to run 5 and 10K there about 3 years ago.
So there you go. We've just found the legs for the team that haven't worked.
Lockdown, and this YouTube thing put pay to my time and my little boy here, of course.
So, Daz, do you want to round off with the sponsors then?
So let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Let's give a shout out to the Radiator Shed. We'll just remove that comment for 1 sec. So Yes. So everyone knows at this stage the story with Rust and the RadiatorShed.com as we put Chris and Richie in jail. So yeah, if you're looking for the latest radiators, or you're thinking about doing up your house, changing radiators, and you know someone that is doing up a house, get on to Russ. He's the one on the right. The other lad is Colin Wilson there. Yeah, Russ will sort you out. And if you need to get them installed, go to the install works, all part of Russ's company. And you know already the lovely radiators. And the showroom must be nearly ready now. Russ should be soon send us some new photos for that. Also, shout out to HO Bathroom Design Co., the Northeast's largest supplier of Velcro and botch bathroomware. Team Valley Gateshead, over 20 years established, ran by the family. Get down to the showroom on 11th Avenue, Team Valley Estate in Gateshead, and you'll see the latest there. If you're looking for any bathroom wear, you know where to go. H2O Bathroom Design Co. They will sort you out. That's a shout out to our sponsors. Shout out just what's coming up as well, actually. So it's tomorrow night. It's away days. And away days, we have the Villa Park podcast with Rich Sutherland going on. We also have Billy from his channel, Total Screamers. So that is on at 7:30 tomorrow evening. So keep an eye out for that. As the man himself, there he is, just plugging your show, Pete. Yeah, it should be a good one, and it made all the more interesting now as well with the Emery Howe battle as well, and with Villa doing so well. So it's a key game for us coming up at the weekend, and then at the weekend itself, after the game that night, we're going to go with our reaction show as well. Always popular, the reaction shows, and come along, join us, and hopefully we'll toast another victory, another 3 points, and be all smiling faces again. But that's coming up on Loaded. Now, where's your next?
I think we're letting it 2.5 hours, lads.
Yeah. We're actually, it's been an hour show again. We've outdone ourselves.
I have to say, just from a personal level, it's been you boys already know it's been a really difficult week for me, but I've really enjoyed this show tonight. I think it's been a top show. It's certainly helped me get through what we're going through at the moment. But I just appreciate it, and everyone in the chat. So absolutely spot on. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks everyone for joining us. Make sure to hit that like button on your way out, and make sure to subscribe if you're new. We shall see you very soon, as in tomorrow, about 22 hours time. Good luck. Good night. How'd you like that?